नमस्कार, गुड मॉर्निंग। कोविड वायरस ने हम सबकी जिंदगी बदल दी है। सेहत को लेकर हम पहले से ज्यादा आशंकित लेकिन सतर्क हो गए हैं। अब मामूली सर्दी जुकाम भी हमें कैजुअल रहने की अनुमति नहीं देते। हमारा रहन सहन, खान पान और तमाम आदतें अब पहले जैसी नहीं रही, लेकिन हमारे परिवार और समाज का एक अंग ऐसा है जिनके जीवन को कोविड-19 ने सबसे ज्यादा प्रभावित किया है, और वो वर्ग है एडोलसेंट, यानी किशोरावस्था। जवानी और युवावस्था की दहलीज पर खड़ा ये वर्ग कोविड की वजह से शारीरिक और मानसिक दोनों तरह से परेशान रहा। आजादी और ख्वाबों की उड़ान भरने वाले एडोलसेंट प्रतिबंध और रोक टोक के साए में जीने को मजबूर हो गए। हील फाउंडेशन ने उनके इस दर्द को समझते हुए आज के हेल्थ फॉर ऑल को इसी वर्ग को डेडिकेट किया है। आज हम बड़े बड़े डॉक्टरों और वेलनेस एक्सपर्ट से ये जानने की कोशिश करेंगे कि आखिर एडोलसेंट हेल्थ की समस्याएं क्या हैं, खासकर पोस्ट कोविड टाइम्स में। हमें उनके स्वास्थ्य को किस तरह और किस हद तक प्राथमिकता देनी है, क्योंकि इस वर्ग को आज सबसे ज्यादा वेलनेस गाइडेंस की जरूरत है। अगले 3 घंटे तक हमारा ये शो YouTube और Facebook पर लाइव रहेगा। आप इसका फायदा उठा सकते हैं। तो हर बार की तरह सबसे पहले देखते हैं हमारा ये राउंड अप वीडियो।
Namaskar and welcome to this episode of Health4All. Now we start first session on yoga.
So today we are going to talk about not hyperthyroidism, we are going to talk about hypothyroidism. A lot of difference in hypo and hyper. So what is the difference? First, let us know that everybody talks about I have thyroid. Nobody talks about which kind of thyroid they have. Okay, so one is when your thyroid glands are underactive is when you have hypothyroidism. So you need to activate them. Now in hyperthyroidism you lose weight. In hypothyroidism you gain weight. Okay, and that's why it is more important that you exercise or you do yoga or you do pranayam during hypothyroidism. Okay, now apart from strength training, there are certain poses which can help you in yoga to activate your gland. Okay, since the gland is located here in the neck, आपका gland neck के पास होता है, तो आप नेक एक्सरसाइजेस से स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं। ओके, आप ब्रीद इन करिए, पीछे ले जाइए, ब्रीद आउट नॉर्मल न्यूट्रल पोजीशन, ब्रीद इन बैक, ब्रीद आउट, सांस अंदर ले, सांस बाहर छोड़े, अंदर ले, बाहर छोड़े। कितने बार कर सकते हैं? अब नेक एक्सरसाइजेस तो आप दिन में बहुत बार कर सकते हैं। नेक एक्सरसाइजेस इज समथिंग व्हिच यू कैन डू मोर टाइम्स। आप टीवी देख रहे हैं, आप नेक एक्सरसाइजेस करिए, सामने आप नेक एक्सरसाइजेस कर सकते हैं। तो नेक एक्सरसाइजेस को आप एक्सरसाइज ना समझ के, तो ब्रीद इन, ब्रीद आउट, ब्रीद इन, breathe out. Looking at the opposite shoulder. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. We are basically trying to activate all the neck muscles, which thereby can activate your thyroid gland. Okay. Similarly, bending to the side. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. आप जब योगा कर रहे हैं तो आपकी सांस से कनेक्ट करना बहुत ही जरूरी है. तो आप हमेशा याद रखिए कि every exercise or every movement you are doing in yoga, you are connecting with your breath. Very, very important. Okay. The next exercise, which is one of my favorite exercise, that is basically cat and camel. As you see, we actually extend our neck in cat and camel. So come on all the fours. आप crawl position में आ जाएं. याद रखें जब आप crawl position में आ रहे हैं तो आप कैसे आ सकते हैं crawl position में. आपका elbow आपके नी के पास रखिए और आप सीधे हो जाइए. तो this is your correct crawl position. Your shoulder will be right down the wrist. So they will be in one straight line. Okay. So in this position, you go breathe in, take it all the way up. Okay, give all the pressure at your back. Breathe out, take your back up, neck down. Breathe in, take it all the way up. Breathe out. सांस को अंदर ले और धीरे धीरे बाहर छोड़े. सांस को अंदर ले और धीरे धीरे बाहर छोड़े. So this is called cat and camel exercise.
अब वक्त है हमारे पॉपुलर सेगमेंट योर हेल्थ काउंटर का. आज का टॉपिक है क्रॉनिकल्स ऑफ कोविड-19 पेंडेमिक, थर्ड आई पर्सपेक्टिव with Dr. Amitav Banerjee.
Now, looking back, the last pandemic, that is plague pandemic, organizations like the World Health Organizations did pretty good job. That's what we are told as per reported data. Now, how do you view, would you view the role played by WHO in kinder light, or did they fail?
WHO this time didn't get it right. WHO got it right earlier. WHO did not get it right because and WHO also flip-flopped. So that flip-flop itself causes lack of trust. In fact, when the Wuhan was affected, China locked down Hubei. It locked down only one district, and the WHO came down heavily on China. It said that this is
काउंटर का.
Organizations like the World Health Organization.
WHO did not get it right because and WHO also flip-flopped. So that flip-flop itself causes lack of trust. In fact, when the Wuhan was affected, China locked down Hubei. It locked down only one district, and the WHO came down heavily on China. It said that this is unscientific and WHO never recommends. The Western press also said it is authoritarian, and it criticized, the WHO criticized. I have got the evidence on it. And but subsequently Italy did the countrywide lockdown. Again they got it wrong because Italy, they have a very elderly population, and again Italy, the pandemic hit the nursing homes. Average age of death in Italy was 80 years. And that had a very high, particularly case fatality rate in hospitals. In fact, one initial paper gave out the case fatality as 20%. So that was alarming, and the models took this as a year and predicted a catastrophe for the whole world. And the WHO did not have a proper surveillance system to really cross-check this and see the finer points, the demographic profile and who are dying. So it was a chaotic. And so WHO failed miserably in this pandemic.
I vividly remember in the initial episode of Health4All, you had created a flutter by saying that lockdowns do not serve any purpose. And in the same episode, you had mentioned that the way out is to attain herd immunity. What is your current views on herd immunity?
The data reinforces those views. If you see the Worldometer data, it is in the public domain. Like those countries, there's a published study also. that data from 68 countries and 2947 American counties. They tried to correlate the premise was, while denying, those who are denying herd immunity, their premise was it is only vaccine which can achieve herd immunity. Herd immunity can be achieved either by recovery after natural infection and by vaccination. So their premise was that vaccine is the only panacea which will achieve herd immunity. But the recent data, it is available in the public domain from 68 countries and 2947, there's a published paper on it. It does not show any correlation with the level of population level immunization and the trends and the mortality from COVID-19. And you can have a look, even if you just have a quick glance at the Worldometer data, you see this heavily vaccinated countries like Israel, they were into the 4th dose. They are having a peak, after the peak it comes down naturally, because even if the vaccine fails, large number of people get infected and ipso facto they get the herd immunity from natural infection. Some due to vaccine immunity and more strongly due to the natural infection. And then subsequently studies from Israel, it has established that the natural infection gives 13 to 27 times more robust immunity than vaccine-induced immunity. So these are scientific papers and established evidence.
Welcome back. We now move on to session 3. Session 3 is an important session on global re-emergence of COVID-19. How is India placed?
डॉक्टर साहब, सबसे पहले जो सरकार ने फैसला लिया है सभी एडल्ट्स को बूस्टर डोज देने का, इस पर आपकी क्या प्रतिक्रिया?
देखिए, जो भी डिसीजन हम लेते हैं उसका एक साइंटिफिक बेसिस होना चाहिए. वी आर डॉक्टर, साइंटिस्ट, रिसर्चर हम लोग हैं, तो ये देखना चाहिए कि क्या बूस्टर का कंसेप्ट इसलिए है या प्रिकॉशनरी डोज का, कि अगर इम्यूनिटी कम हो जाती है तो इसको दे के प्रिवेंट करेंगे. कई लोग ये भी कर रहे हैं कि बूस्टर देने से ही हम 4th वेव जो आने वाला है उसको रोक सकते हैं. तो ये देखना पड़ेगा कि हमारी पॉपुलेशन कितनी ससेप्टेबल है. ससेप्टेबिलिटी का मतलब ये होता है कि या तो इन्फेक्शन हो या सीवियरिटी और डेथ हो उनकी. इस पर डिपेंड करता है. अगर ससेप्टेबल पॉपुलेशन है तो डेफिनेटली कोई भी वेव आ सकती है. अगर ससेप्टेबिलिटी नहीं, ससेप्टेबिलिटी हम कैसे रिड्यूस करते हैं? 2 तरीके से होती है, वैक्सीन से और नेचुरल इम्यूनिटी जो मिलती है इसके बाद इन्फेक्शन होने के बाद. नेचुरल इम्यूनिटी के भी एविडेंसेस हैं, वैक्सीन के भी एविडेंसेस हैं. वैक्सीन का एविडेंस अभी तक जो भी एक ग्लोबल है कि 80 to 90% सीवियरिटी एंड डेथ रिड्यूस करता है, लेकिन इन्फेक्शन को रोकने में कारगर नहीं है. वह जो है ऑलमोस्ट न के बराबर है, लेकिन इसकी इफेक्ट जो है 6 मंथ के बाद कम होने लगता है वैक्सीन का जो है ये. तो इसलिए 3rd डोज बूस्टर या अभी 4th डोज भी कुछ कंट्री ने देना शुरू कर दिया, ऑलरेडी दे दिया है, और हो सकता है एवरी 6 मंथ और 9 मंथ सब्सिक्वेंट डोजेस भी देते रहें. ये वैक्सीन के बारे में एविडेंस है.
According to a recent study, the SARS-CoV-2, the virus causing COVID-19, can infect cells of the heart's natural pacemaker that maintains rhythmic beat, setting off ferroptosis or self-destruction process causing arrhythmias. What is your view on this?
As we know, this disease affects all the organs, predominantly the inner linings of blood vessels, and heart also. There are enough studies, even MRI based, to show that there is scarring of heart के अंदर जो muscle है उसके अंदर scarring हो सकती है, and you can have arrhythmias because of that. Muscle weakness हो सकती है. So it can even have changes जो कि mimic करें heart attack को. So this is about 5-10% will have that, and that is why जो जैसे आपने बताया long COVID cases, हर एक जो लॉन्ग कोविड केस हमें कहता है कि सांस चढ़ रहा है, ब्रेथलेसनेस हो रही है, तो एको बिकम्स द इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ द एग्जामिनेशन, ईसीजी एको, कि भी कोई उसकी हार्ट वीक तो नहीं हो गई है.
क्या एक डायबिटिक पर्सन अगर उनका डायबिटीज नियंत्रित नहीं है तो क्या वो लॉन्ग कोविड के लिए ज्यादा वल्नरेबल है?
सर हमने इसमें दो चीज़ें देखी। कोविड में जो अभी तक जर्नी रही है 2 साल की, उसमें हम दो चीज़ें जो इम्पोर्टेंट समझ में आई हैं वो ये है, एक तो होस्ट रिस्पॉन्स होता है और एक पैथोजन रिस्पॉन्स होता है। तो पैथोजन रिस्पॉन्स में हम लोग बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं कर पाए हैं। जो भी ट्रीटमेंट्स हैं, जो भी चीज़ें हैं, वो सारा का सारा होस्ट रिस्पॉन्स पे टारगेट हुई है। होस्ट रिस्पॉन्स पे टारगेट हुई हैं, तो वो कैसे टारगेट हुई है, क्या कर रही है? जो भी चीज़ें आप दे रहे हो, सपोर्टिव दे रहे हो, विटामिन डी दे रहे हो, विटामिन सी, जिंक, क्वेरसिटिन, वो सारी चीज़ें इन्फ्लेमेशन कम कर रही हैं, ऑक्सीडेटिव स्ट्रेस कम कर रही हैं। एंटीऑक्सीडेंट्स दे रहे हो, स्टीरॉइड्स दे रहे हो, तो स्टीरॉइड्स का भी एंटी इन्फ्लामेटरी रोल है। तो ये जो चीज़ें हैं, तो जो बेसिक अंडरलाइंग कॉज हो गया, इन्फ्लेमेशन आप कम कर रहे हो, ऑक्सीडेटिव स्ट्रेस आप कम कर रहे हो, इमोशनल स्ट्रेस आप कम कर रहे हो। जैसे कि आप ये देखो कि SSRI करके क्लास ऑफ मेडिसिन है जो कि डिप्रेशन, एंजाइटी में देते हैं, उसके बेनिफिट्स देखे गए हैं कोविड-19 के अंदर। तो ये जो चीज़ें बेस लाइन पे काम कर रही हैं, इन्फ्लेमेशन कम कर रहा है, ऑक्सीडेटिव स्ट्रेस कम कर रहा है, इमोशनल स्ट्रेस कम कर रहा है, सो यही अंडरलाइंग मैकेनिज्म्स हैं जो कि डायबिटीज को वर्सन करते हैं।
As a renowned epidemiologist working as project lead European Union project with Center for Youth and Social Development Bhubaneswar, what exactly is your role so far as COVID is concerned?
So as of now, I've joined an organization where this particular organization, CYSD, has been reaching out to the tribal population in and around Odisha, and so they've been reaching out to the complete downtrodden and trying to put them up and keep them afloat. And in terms of where I kick in is obviously social development, but also in terms of health, where this organization that I'm working for now has been having a lot of vaccine drives in convergence with the Odisha government for the tribal population in the past during the COVID, and they've been doing a great job. CYSD has been doing a great job in terms of vaccinating tribal population, and I keep going to these community meetings in these villages where I get to know that our organization they have licensed with the government and converged with the government and have had vaccination drives, successful vaccination drives for over 90% for the second dose, which they've reached out to everyone possible in the tribal belt, which is a commendable job. So when I finished my vaccine consultancy with TCI Foundation, and whereas the organization that I'm working for now is absolutely at the forefront of vaccinating people who really need it in the first place. And when I interacted with a lot of people at the tribal belts, they have 100% knowledge about what has happened with COVID. They know what COVID is now because of these organizations reaching out at the base level with convergence with the government, of course. And they know that there is also a precautionary dose that's coming up, which is the way forward.
Namaskar and welcome to yet another episode of Health4All, the 27th episode. And today we are dealing with a very, very stormy group, the adolescents. And I hope we get some answers for this particular group. And we start as usual with a new episode of yoga, and it is titled Yoga for Adolescents. We have with us Dr. Pooja Pandey, a certified yoga teacher, an expert in aerobics and Zumba, and runs aerobic physiotherapy, combining all these techniques for better living. She's also the creative spirit behind a successful YouTube channel called Arogya Physio Tips. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, Dr. Pooja Pandey.
Thank you.
And I know that you are dealing with a very, very stormy group of adolescents and yoga. So the floor is now yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So I am basically going to talk a lot because that's what is required for adolescent. Now, first we need to understand that what is adolescent. Okay? क्या होता है जब बच्चे प्यूबर्टी में एंटर करते हैं तो उस स्टेज को हम adolescence कहते हैं. You automatically understand looking at the child itself that the child is entering. You need not know the age. You will see the child and you will tell that this is okay, this is a child and this child is adolescent. Okay, you will see the child. Now, what is the difference? Your body start becoming different as you enter adolescence. Okay, children, as in the girls, they start developing breast. They start having periods. They start growing taller, okay? And boys, they also start growing taller. Their voice become little harsh. You will see them turning from cute kids to children with pimples and skin issues all over. So that is what adolescence is. अगर आपके घर में एक adolescent बच्चा है तो हमेशा याद रखिए कि वो बंडल ऑफ एनर्जी है. ओके, इतनी एनर्जी है उसके अंदर, प्लस उसका माइंड भी एक्टिवेट हो रहा है हर एक जगह पे. उसको धीरे धीरे कुछ आ गई है. लाइक इफ यू वॉच अ फिल्म विद अ चाइल्ड हु इज लाइक 6 years and even if it is adult film, and the child will not actually get anything out of it. They will not understand anything. But now the same movie, if you sit with a 13-year-old, 14-year-old child, they will absorb every single thing. So first and foremost is you have to channelize that energy, okay? Because if you don't channelize that energy, the child may get a lot of emotional stress, distress, depression, and those issues, childhood issues, which may stay forever. See, if a trauma happens to us when we were small, we can let go very easily. You know, it goes from our mind very easily. But the same trauma, when happens in adolescence, it does not go. It forms the root of our whole life. Okay, so it's very important that the root has to be strong. First, physically. Second, mentally. And third, spiritually. Okay. Why I am telling all the three is we need to look into it. One, how many of you know that as the child enters into adolescence, of course, the child is also going to the greater grades. Okay. Child is basically going from childhood to adolescence. So now the child was in class 4th or 5th, but suddenly now they are in class 6th and 7th or 8th. And the parents and the school, I am basically blaming both, put lot of study pressure on the child. Okay, it's not that the child should not study, but they should remember that child should play or do physical exercise every single the energy into them. if that energy is not channelized through sweating, through yoga, through playing outside, it will convert into lot of emotional distress. And that is the reason you would have seen that today class 10th children, class 12th children, as they are entering into adulthood, they want to suicide. They get into depression, which was not even heard in our times. Okay. So one very, very important point is that they should convert this energy from, just sitting at home, but going outside and playing, or maybe involving in yoga. Okay. When I say yoga helps in child complete growth. It is a very, very bad myth that yoga is only for people who are fully grown or basically who are old enough. They should meditate, or they should do pranayams, or they should do the exercise. Okay. It's not like that. Yoga should be done by the children itself when they are at this age, because if you introduce yoga at this age, you know that your child will be mentally and physically sorted. Okay. So first and foremost, very important point is, as your child is entering the adolescent stage until they enter adulthood, you need to make sure that your child is physically completely active through sports, through yoga, through any other means. Okay, a sports training maybe. Okay, so very, very important is your child needs to be active. Second, introduce pranayam and meditation. Okay, why pranayam and meditation is very, very important for the child? क्यों important है? क्योंकि बच्चा परसीव कर रहा है, अभी बच्चे के दिमाग में बहुत सारी चीजें चल रही हैं, उसको नहीं पता है कि क्या गलत है, क्या सही है. जब बच्चा प्राणायाम करता है, जब बच्चा मेडिटेट करता है, तो उसको क्लैरिटी ऑफ थॉट आती है. उसको ये पता चलता है कि हाँ, ये चीजें शायद मेरे लिए अच्छी नहीं है, या ये चीजें मुझे देखना चाहिए, या ये जो फ्रेंड्स है मेरे सर्कल में, क्योंकि फ्रेंड्स का बहुत बड़ा इफेक्ट होता है ड्यूरिंग एडोलेसेंस. तो ये जो फ्रेंड्स है, ये शायद ये कंपनी मेरे लिए अच्छी नहीं है, मैं नो बोलना सीखूं. क्योंकि एडोलेसेंस में एक बहुत ही वीक पॉइंट है कि बिकॉज ऑफ पीयर प्रेशर कोई ना नहीं बोल सकता. मान लीजिए कल को 15 साल का लड़का है और उसको बोला जाए कि जरा स्मोकिंग करते हैं. वो 15 साल के लड़के को पता है स्मोकिंग अच्छा नहीं है, पर वो ना नहीं बोल पाता क्योंकि वो कूल रहना चाहता है. बट इफ योर चाइल्ड इज डूइंग प्राणायाम एंड मेडिटेशन, they will make sure that they can say no in front of any, and they don't get into that peer pressure. Okay, or so it's very, very important is adolescence is anyways full of pressure. There is peer pressure, there is study pressure, there is performance pressure. They want to perform well in studies, they want to perform well in sports. There is so much. So the parental pressure has to be least. I am not saying that parents should become friend. I am not saying that at all. I am saying that parents should not force things on children. Okay. So if the child is liking dance, don't force them to get into sports. Okay. Just ask yourself and see what your child is interested in and put them into that field, and they will actually shine on. Okay, so support your child. Your child needs lot of support at this point of time. Okay, now yoga and pranayam, what are the good things we can do? Okay, 2 or 3 very, very good pranayam for adolescents. One, Ujjayi breath. Okay, Ujjayi is basically throat breathing, and you can do it on 3 stages. Your first is at the lower lobe, middle lobe, and upper lobe. Okay, so start with lower lobe 10 breaths, your middle lobe 10 breaths, and your upper lobe 8 breaths. So 10, 10, 8, or even you can do 15, 15, and somewhere around 10 here. Okay, So you can do like that. And how do you do the breathing? You can actually do like, feel the breath on the throat. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold 2. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold 2. Okay, so that's for your lower lobe, that's for your middle lobe, and that's for your upper lobe. So this is done in 3 cycles. So you do breathing throughout the cycle. Now, why is Ujjayi breath very good for adolescents? Is because so many physical changes happening in the body. Okay, so what happens because of, for example, because of breast development, a lot of girls make rounded shoulders. Okay, and don't want to breathe deep. Okay, so adolescence means when you do Ujjayi breath, first of all, your chest expand and your posture becomes better. Okay, plus you are activating your thyroid gland. So there are so many children nowadays who are developing diabetes and who are developing thyroid disorder. They will definitely, it will make sure that that does not enter at this point of time. Also, when the child is doing regularly pranayam and meditation, the child themselves, and they are into a lot of physical exercises, the child themselves start to know that, okay, the body does not require so much junk food. Okay, the junk should be like, okay, 1 cheat day or 2 cheat day, that's about it. I can't eat junk but you will see a child who is studying throughout the day, they will end up eating more junk. And that happened more during COVID time because the child was sitting at home throughout the day. So when the child is not going out and playing, make sure that they do yoga, pranayam, and meditation at home. Okay. The second breath, which is very, very good for adolescents, is Kapalbhati. Okay. Kapalbhati is basically normal breath in, forced expiration. Normal breath in, forced. How many times you should do it? 20, 20, 20. So basically 3 cycles of it, 20, 20, 20. Post expiration, very, very important. And now why it is important? Now there are a lot of changes which is happening around the genital area and around your abdominal cavity. Okay. The girls especially see so many changes in the uterus when they get into puberty. Okay. So this will make sure that your abdominal cavity is activated. Okay, the genitals are developing properly, and you are see, for example, there are a lot of women who or girls, young, developing PCOS. For them, it is very, very good. Kapalbhati pranayam. So 20, 20, 20, 3 cycles. Okay. Now the third is Ujjayi pranayam. Okay. Ujjayi pranayam I have told. Ujjayi pranayam, Kapalbhati pranayam, Brahmari pranayam. Now, why is Brahmari pranayam important? Brahmari pranayam helps you de-stress yourself in just 7 to 8 breaths. Okay. So it is very important that the child every morning does Brahmari pranayam, where they put 2 fingers in between the eyes, 1 down the nostril, 1 down the lips, thumb closing your earlobe. Take a normal deep breath in and breathe out. Breathe in Brahmari. just taken 2 breaths and I already feel meditative. So Brahmari is because they're bubbling in energy. They are restless. Okay. In that case, this calms them down. This brings peace into them. This makes them, so they are still energetic, but static. They are not doing this. Okay. So it's very, very important that they do Brahmari Pranayam. Okay. Also, Om chanting is very, very good for them. If not, many times, at least 3 times in a day, they can just close their eyes, take a long deep breath in, and breathe out. Breathe in for Omkara. Om. So similarly, they can chant 3 times Omkara every single day. Okay. Now, why it is important for children to do pranayam at this stage is, one, if they are into, so all of us breathe very shallow. हम ना हमारी जो सांस लेते हैं, हम बस अपने कंठ तक लेते हैं, उसको नीचे तो ले जाते ही नहीं है. तो अगर आप प्राणायाम बच्चों में जल्दी इंट्रोड्यूस करेंगे, और बहुत सारे बच्चे, एटलीस्ट बैंगलोर में ऐसे बहुत सारे बच्चे हैं जिनको एलर्जिक अस्थमा या एलर्जिक ब्रोंकाइटिस की प्रॉब्लम, और उनको रेगुलर बेसिस में नेबुलाइजर लेना पड़ता है. तो ये सब कंट्रोल में रहेगा अगर बच्चा छोटी ही उम्र से प्राणायाम कर रहा है. सो इट इज वेरी, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट it is extremely important that you introduce yoga to a child in a very, very early stage. Okay. Now, that was pranayam. Now, second is meditation. Now, when I tell meditate, Shavasana is something which is very, very, very good for the child who is an adolescent. So at the end of the day, they can do 10 to 20 minutes of Shavasana, where they just lie down completely, okay, with both the legs apart and both the hands apart. They just lie down, okay. So you have to basically lie down and you have to keep your hands and legs apart, relax completely, and take your whole attention to your breath and each body part. So you can start with your right toe, then calf, then right knee, then thigh, then right hip, and similarly on the left side, then back, then abdomen, then chest, then hands, then neck. So it will make sure that the whole body relaxes and the child is feel more still and calm. And the child is not bubbling with lot of thoughts here or negative thoughts here. Okay. So Shavasana is something which is very, very good for adolescent. Okay. As a meditative thing which is happening. Okay. Now, another thing which we can discuss is yoga poses. What are the poses which can be good for the child? Okay. Now, that has to be divided into basically 3 parts. Okay. One is they can do Ashtanga yoga or Hatha yoga. Basically, if they are not going out and not playing out and not sweating enough, they require that kind of energy into their body, or that energy should go. So they should get into a complete progressive yoga in which you are sequencing the yoga poses one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And the classic example for this is Surya Namaskara. We have done Surya Namaskara practice in our other I will show you today as well. So that is one thing which is very, very good for adolescents is Surya Namaskara, okay, which is basically if you do say 20 rounds of Surya Namaskara and start progressing to more and more, and you can come to 108 rounds of Surya Namaskara, okay, which is like very, very good. The child is completely, the energy is drawn away and the child feels much more calmer rather than bubbling in energy. So the first thing which you can introduce to your child is Surya Namaskara. The second is there are a lot of postural deformity which develops to the child because the child is sitting in front of computer the whole day, or the child is doing the video game or sitting in front of the TV, and the child is having round shoulder or kyphosis. That means you feel that there is a lump at the back of your neck, or they are the posture, as in the curvatures, they are also going, or the child can develop, especially in adolescence, with lot of to carry, you can develop scoliosis, okay, especially girls during their periods time, okay. So very, very important is we should add some postural poses in yoga. When I say postural poses, it can be tree pose, it can be warrior pose, all these poses which open up your postures, they are very, very, very good for adolescents, okay? And the third and most important thing is basically yoga poses which improves your concentration and balance, okay? Because you want to focus. If you get focused during your adolescence, your whole life is sorted, okay? So it is very important because the adolescents can't focus at one thing. They are everywhere, okay? So for them to make sure that they focus on one thing is basically our third type of. So yoga poses will be divided into all the three. One, if your child is not going out, then Ashtanga yoga, Hatha yoga. If your child is having postural issues, more of opening up yoga. And the third is basically trying to concentrate and balance. I'd like to demonstrate all the three in very quick way. The first is basically Surya Namaskara. So you breathe in, breathe out, breathe in again, go all the way back, breathe out, come all the way down. Keep your right leg forward, your left leg back. Okay, keep your right leg back. Dandasana or high plank position. Come to Ashtanga Namaskara. Breathe in to Bhujang. Breathe out. Mountain. Breathe out. Breathe in. Keep your right leg forward. Breathe out. Keep your left leg forward. Go all the way back. Come all the way down. Now, the same thing what I did from the right leg, I will do from the left leg, and that becomes one round of Surya Namaskara. So the child will sweat, and that will make sure that their energy is utilized. Okay? So that is Surya Namaskara. Now, when I say posture, it can be tree pose. So keep your left leg towards the right groin. Breathe in and take both the hands up and take it all the way up and keep breathing in and out and focus on one thing. So everything is opening up. Your hip is opening up. Your hand is opening up. And concentrate on one single thing and stand on one side. That is tree pose, or just back bends where you breathe in and you hold on because you want to again open up because your body is coming forward. So you want to open it up. So all the back bends are very, very good. Then mountain. Mountain is very good. What we did in the Surya Namaskar and trying to loosen up your calf muscle is again very good. Cat and camel is very good because you again want to open your spine. So you are here and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. So this is very good. Then the hips are becoming tight for the children. So it is very good for them to squat. And they can actually do squatting where they hold the right hand to the left ear and left hand to the right. And you वो punishment मिलती थी ना स्कूल में, This is very, very good for the child. Do this 11 times or 21 times as you are comfortable. It improves not only your strength in the lower leg, it will also improve your mind because you're pulling your ears all the time. Okay, it brings focus. So it is very, very good for the child. Another thing is warrior pose, where your left leg is facing forward, right leg is facing to the side. Breathe in, breathe out, and hold the pose. Okay, 10 seconds you are here. Then you bring both the hands together. 10 seconds you are there, and take the hands all the way up. Again, this way. Open up. Triangular pose. Again, opening up the whole thing. Okay, so this is very good for posture. Or just standing on one leg and bending forward and trying to take the other leg back again helps you focus and improves your concentration. Okay, so always remember that all the poses which we do is basically divided into three. One is you need to make sure the child sweats out. So Hatha yoga or Ashtanga yoga, which is sequencing one after the other for 1 hour, half an hour. If the child is developing postural issues, then all the posture which opens up your chest or back bends. Okay. And the third is concentration. So standing on one leg or bending forward and improving your balance. So these are the three things that the child should do when it comes to yoga poses. So let me just brief it out. 1, yoga poses. 2, pranayama. 3rd, meditation, which I told, savasana. When you give all the 3 components of yoga to the child develops a much more better human, because the adolescence is just a budding phase, when the child is trying to develop. And what information you give at this point of time is very, very important for the child. तो ये जरूरी आप अगर चाहते हैं कि आपका बच्चा एक अच्छे सुंदर फ्लावर की तरह निखरे तो उसके लिए बहुत ही अर्ली स्टेजेस में आप योगा प्राणायाम मेडिटेशन उसको इंट्रोड्यूस करें. नमस्कार.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja Pandey. My initial question would be, this is a very stormy group.
Yes.
Okay. Now, how, from your experience, how easy or how difficult is it to get them onto a yoga mat?
Get?
How easy or how difficult is to get this group to the yoga mat?
Okay, first and foremost, very important point is if the parents are not doing yoga, the child will not do yoga. This is the first and foremost truth. You can't be getting up at 8 and tell your child to get up at 6 and go for a yoga class. It is not going to happen. So first is they should see you doing it. Okay. And as I said, the parents cannot enforce anything on them. Okay. When they see that, you do it every single day, they find it very inquisitive to why they are doing it and they want to try it. The time you tell them try it, they will not try it. So it has to come from home where everybody is doing it and they also find it interesting to try. Okay, otherwise very difficult to get them into mat.
Now, you spoke about a rounded shoulder, especially when girls start developing their breasts. It's almost a natural phenomenon that they hunch. But how far is, children carrying school bags, heavy school bags to school, also responsible for this?
So many children who are carrying are developing scoliosis. Now, what is scoliosis? The spine gets into S-shaped. When you are an adolescent, your bone is basically a green stick bone. That means it is not completely fused. So it takes the shape and generally children carry like this, One strap will be much more heavier than the other one. So it is very, very important is the kind of bag they invest their money in, that has to be really good. It should be completely against your back. It should not be loose. It should not be tight. It should be completely against the back. The load has to be at the center. It's not that the child cannot carry a 10 kg weight. They can carry completely a 10 kg weight, but they should know how to carry. So there has to be information by parents or by school as in how to carry the bag, which is very important, and to stay away from all those stylish one-sided bag and all that. This is the bag, a laptop bag, which is completely against your back, and being in the center is very, very important, and not hunching forward or not hunching back and not hunching to the side.
You spoke about, you're from Bengaluru, and Bengaluru is known for its allergy problems,
Yes.
Congress grass and other things, and also vehicular pollution.
Uh-huh.
Now, where do you advise these people to do pranayama, because it's in a highly polluted, and most of them are staying in flats, and of course you have a lot of parks in Bangalore also, but where exactly do these youngsters, if they want to do yoga, should they go?
Actually, Bangalore, if you're not if you don't have that kind of money, you will not stay in center. Okay, center, when I say Majestic, MG Road kind of area, most of the people stay here. Where
CBD, so-called CBD.
Yes, and if you see, Bangalore has a lot of upper middle class people, because they are people who are into software industry, and they generally live in a flat which itself has a lot of greenery in it, where there will be park and there will be a play area and there will be a lot of greenery. So as such, like as soon as I come out of, so there is Meenakshi Mall near my house, soon as I cross that area and come towards my flat area, it's 2 degrees lesser than just crossing that area. So they make sure that the apartment you are staying is very green. Yes, it is a problem if you're staying in the city and it is completely polluted, then I would prefer going to the nearby big parks, like Kaban Park is there, Lal Bagh is there. So try to go there more often, where you can take walks together and do pranayama as a whole family, bonding time.
Our schools, you spoke about middle class family, a very aspirational group. Our schools now slowly started introducing yoga?
Actually, my daughter's school does yoga on regular basis. Not during COVID time, but pre-COVID time, they used to even celebrate the yoga day, and they used to give best gift to the children who did the best yoga poses. So yes, lot of schools are bringing up yoga as one of the activity, like how art is or how dance is, because they're understanding that in adolescence, if you want to improve their mental health, it is only through yoga, nothing else. See, very, very important is mental health, because I myself know some 3-4 kids who would have suicide, and I'm sure all of us know that in that peer group, there is so much of pressure that you say one thing and can lead to such a disastrous thing. So mentally making them stable. So foremost is it has to start from parents. If the parents don't do, most of the time what happens, parents are like teaching, preaching, but not following.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Over to you, Kishore, for your questions.
थैंक यू सर। पूजा जी, अभी जैसा कि शंकर जी ने पूछा कि बच्चों को योगा मैट पे लाना बहुत मुश्किल है, आप हमारे हिंदी दर्शकों को बताइए, खास करके उस ग्रुप को बताइए कि अगर माता पिता नहीं करते हैं तो भी उनको करना चाहिए। कई बार बच्चों को माता पिता को सिखाना पड़ता है, तो आपका उनको क्या मैसेज है? अगर माता पिता कोई गलत काम करते हैं तो आपको भी फॉलो करना चाहिए या आपको योगा मैट पे आना चाहिए? आपका क्या संदेश है उनके लिए?
बच्चे तो आज के बहुत समझदार हैं, उनको कुछ चीजें बताने की जरूरत नहीं। आज के बच्चों को मैं देखती हूँ तो लगता है कि हमको कुछ आता ही नहीं। बच्चे तो छोटी छोटी चीजों से बहुत जल्दी सीख जाते हैं। तो आज के जो बच्चे हैं वो इतने जागरूक हैं कि उनको पता है कि क्या करना है। तो वो बच्चों की तो मैं बात ही नहीं कर रही हूँ। जिनको ऑलरेडी पता है वो बोलेंगे कि मम्मी पापा आप सोते रहिए, मेरे को तो सुबह 4 बजे उठ के ट्रेनिंग जाना, पैसे दीजिए मैं चला जाऊंगा। ओके, तो वो जागरूकता बहुत सारे बच्चों में है, पर कुछ ऐसे बच्चे हैं जिनको समझ नहीं आ रहा है, जो कंफ्यूज है कि उनकी बॉडी में क्या हो रहा है, उनको समझ नहीं आता है कि वो ऐसा क्यों सोच रहे हैं, क्योंकि वो पहले ऐसा नहीं सोचते थे, क्योंकि हार्मोन्स उनकी बॉडी में आ रहे हैं। उन बच्चों को माँ बाप की दिशा बहुत जरूरी है। माँ बाप को ये सोचना पड़ेगा कि अगर आप समय पे नहीं सोते हैं तो बच्चा कैसे सोएगा। आप यहाँ पे बैठ के नेटफ्लिक्स और अमेजॉन प्राइम देख रहे हैं और बोलते हैं बच्चे को 9 बजे चुपचाप सो जाओ, तो ये तो नहीं चलेगा ना। तो साथ में खाना है और सोने का समय हो गया, पूरा घर का लाइट ऑफ हो गया है, हम सब सो रहे हैं। हाँ, आपके पिता को कोई काम है, आपकी माता को कोई काम है, वो काम कर रहे हैं, तो आपको समझना चाहिए कि आपको समय पे सोना है, समय पे उठना है, क्योंकि आपका बॉडी वो क्लॉक साइकिल पे, अगर आप एडोलेसेंस में समय पे नहीं सोएंगे और समय पे नहीं उठेंगे तो आपको बहुत सारी हार्मोनल डिसऑर्डर हो सकती है। और पीसीओएस इसका या थायराइड डिसऑर्डर इसका बहुत बड़ा एग्जाम्पल है।
आपने थायराइड डिसऑर्डर की बात की, पिछले सप्ताह भी आपने थायराइड का जिक्र किया था। मेरे मन में एक सवाल है कि थायराइड के शिकार आजकल इस उम्र के बच्चे बहुत हो रहे हैं।
हाँ।
तो एक तो पहली बात
डायबिटीज हो रहा है, डायबिटीज 13 साल के बच्चों को डायबिटीज हो रहा है
जी। तो एक तो पहली बात तो ये कि क्या ये जेनेटिक प्रॉब्लम है की वजह से हो रहा है, या क्या फिजिकल एक्टिविटीज बिल्कुल नहीं है उसकी वजह से हो रहा है, या जंक फूड की वजह से हो रहा है। एक तो कारण। दूसरा पार्ट इसका ये है कि क्या योग और बाकी एक्सरसाइजेज से इससे दवा से मुक्ति मिल जाएगी, ये दवा नहीं खाना पड़ेगा।
तो मैंने शायद पहले भी बोला था हाइपोथायराइडिज्म के टाइम पे कि अगर आप नेचुरल फूड खा रहे हैं, मान लीजिए आप एक नेचुरोथेरेपी डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं, नेचुरल फूड खाने को बोलेगा, मतलब फल, सब्जियां जो आप अपनी बॉडी में रोज इंट्रोड्यूस करें, ऐसा खाने से और योग प्राणायाम करने से थायराइड पूरी तरीके, और इस समय जब बच्चा छोटा है तो हम एक्चुअली उस डिसऑर्डर को पूरी तरीके से रिवर्स कर सकते हैं। हाँ, जेनेटिक एक बहुत बड़ा पार्ट है, और अगर मेरे माँ बाप को डायबिटीज है तो मुझे डायबिटीज होने की बहुत चांसेस है, पर वो पहले भी था। पर ऐसा पहले क्यों होता था कि डायबिटीज बहुत लेट स्टेज में आती थी, इतनी अर्ली स्टेज में क्यों नहीं आती थी? क्योंकि बच्चा जो था ना, बच्चा सिर्फ घर का खाना खाता था, 7, 8, 9 बजे उनके दिन खत्म हो जाते थे, वो सो जाते थे, कुछ आता नहीं था। टीवी में DD1, DD2 चैनल था, कुछ देखने के लिए भी नहीं था। रात को सो जाना होता था, सुबह उठना होता था, सुबह सैर पे जाते थे, उसके बाद घर पे भी बहुत खेलते। मतलब मुझे याद नहीं है कि मैंने 12वीं में नहीं खेला हूं, मैं 12वीं तक खेली हूँ। पर आजकल के बच्चे वैसे नहीं है। मैं तो एक्चुअली मेरे अपार्टमेंट में बच्चा 9वीं 10वीं क्लास में पहुंचता नहीं है, वो नीचे दिखना बंद हो जाता है। वो बस स्कूल जाता है, LN क्लास जाता है, आकाश इंस्टीट्यूट जाता है, यहाँ जाता है, वहां जाता है। तो इसीलिए बहुत जरूरी है कि अगर, हाँ, मैं समझ सकती हूँ कि आप चाहते हैं कि आपका बच्चा एक्सीलेंट निकले स्टडीज में एंड ऑल दैट, बट बहुत जरूरी ये भी है कि आपका बच्चा आप इतना फिजिकली फिट बनाए कि वो भी तो आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। सिर्फ पढ़ाना ही आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी तो नहीं हो सकती है ना। आपको उसको एक जीवन शैली को कैसे जीना है, कैसे एक हेल्दी वे में जीना है, ये भी तो सिखाना आप ही की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। तो वो
थैंक यू पूजा जी। हाँ जी, थैंक यू पूजा जी, आपने बहुत अच्छी तरह से समझाया। मुझे उम्मीद है कि जो बच्चे देख रहे हैं या देख रहे होंगे वो ये समझेंगे कि कई बार उनको इनिशिएटिव लेना पड़ता है और उनको लेना चाहिए अच्छे काम के लिए। थैंक यू। ओवर टू यू मिस्टर शंकर।
Thank you, Kishore. I think a very, very important message that Dr. Pooja Pandey has sent is that you can never push children to yoga unless you yourselves, that the parents themselves, start practicing yoga. Example is better than precept. You can preach 101 things to youngsters, but you should remember that they have 2 years. They will
when the child does not score 98, 99%, and the parent shout at them, and if the child says back to the parent how much you scored, what Parents forget that how they were. They feel that they were always parents. You need to understand that you were also a child. You also didn't wanted to study. So you have to put yourself into their shoes. You have to understand.
Right. Absolutely right. So parents, please wake up early. Please start yoga, and then your children will start yoga themselves. So that's amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you for having that's wonderful, Dr. Pooja. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What to you, Kishore?
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू। और अब वक्त है योर हेल्थ काउंटर का, जिसका विषय है प्रायोरिटाइजिंग एडोलेसेंट हेल्थ इन पोस्ट कोविड टाइम्स। इस विषय पर बात करने के लिए हमारे साथ हैं डॉक्टर हेमा दिवाकर। डॉक्टर हेमा इंडिया की लीडिंग गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट में से हैं, जो बेंगलुरु के दिवाकर हॉस्पिटल में प्रैक्टिस करती हैं। देश विदेश में इनका बड़ा स्थान है। वह ऑब्स्टेट्रिक्स एंड गायनोलॉजिकल सोसाइटी ऑफ इंडिया के फेडरेशन की अध्यक्ष भी हैं। डॉक्टर हेमा दिवाकर इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ पब्लिक हेल्थ से जुड़ी हैं, उसमें टेक्निकल एक्सपर्ट भी हैं, जो भारत सरकार की एक इनिशिएटिव है। डॉक्टर हेमा, आपका स्वागत है हमारे शो में।
नमस्कार।
ओवर टू मिस्टर शंकर। और मिस्टर शंकर बात करेंगे हेमा दिवाकर जी से। आपको डॉक्टर मिस्टर आर शंकर के बारे में भी बता दूं। मिस्टर आर शंकर हील फाउंडेशन के प्रेसिडेंट हैं। उनका जर्नलिज्म में 3 दशक से ज्यादा का अनुभव है। वे अब तक हेल्थ राइटर्स के 200 वर्कशॉप और 7 नेशनल हेल्थ राइटर्स एंड एडिटर्स कन्वेंशन का आयोजन पिछले 5 साल में कर चुके हैं। मिस्टर शंकर कर्नाटका और केरला से प्रकाशित न्यू इंडियन एक्सप्रेस के रेजिडेंट एडिटर रह चुके हैं। ओवर टू मिस्टर शंकर।
Thank you very much, Kishore. Welcome, Dr. Hema Divakar. I think it's always wonderful having you with us. And one thing that I always tell my people is when Dr. Hema Divakar is there, there's a lot of positivity in the whole show. So thank you very much. I think.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we'll start off this session. The topic is prioritizing adolescent health in post-COVID times. So my first question would be, can you distinguish the health issues in adolescents before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID? What are the differences that adolescents went through this critical phase of 2 years?
Namaskar, and thank you for having me on this show, Shankarji and Kishorji. When we say post-COVID, I think a lot of things that were always existing and always needed our attention were in the backyard, and the COVID has bought it and slammed it on our face, so to say. So we recognize the importance of so many things that we ought to have done at the appropriate times, because for adolescents, as the adage goes, you reap as you sow. So you sow the seeds of good health in them, preventive care in them, then they grow up into fine, healthy individuals, which make a healthy country. So the pre and post-COVID has allowed us to make this distinction of really recognizing the importance of health as well. And to my mind, the 5-point program that we always ought to have initiated for the adolescent, catch them young. That is actually the mantra. So the 5 things, one which COVID has brought to the forefront is for all age groups about nutrition and building up your immunity. So the right nutrition, especially in the adolescents, in the growing up years, avoiding anemia and stunted growth, that's one of the prime crucial things. The second is, Pooja ji was just mentioning now about the yoga and the relation to the obesity and the non-communicable diseases like diabetes, etc. So the lifestyle changes, inculcation of the habit of exercise and doing away with the sedentary life pattern and diminishing the incidence of obesity. That's the second important thing. The third thing is, for girls, what happens, especially in adolescence, is the onset of menstruation. Of course, the other secondary sexual changes do happen and happens by default, but one thing that strikes everybody's eyes is the menstruation. So menstrual health and hygiene forms the third important prong. And the fourth is all about vaccines. COVID has brought the vaccine to the forefront, which has made us reflect Well, there are many other vaccines beyond the COVID vaccines, which our adolescents should have got, especially the girls, with respect to cancer cervix, HPV vaccines, etc. So more attention and more focus is now getting on to that. The life skills and the awareness about sexuality, the sexual behavior, contraception, and mental health. So these 5 points, if you really focus, pay attention, do something to make an impact, I think the entire phase of the health of the country as such will change with respect to the next generation. So thank you so much for this very important session where you've invited me, because the key is the adolescent care to build up a good foundation for the future. Don't miss the bus is what we always say. Act at the right time for a better yield, a better impact, and a better tomorrow.
Oh, very well put. A lot of clarity in what you said. My next question is, teen and child marriages became rampant during the COVID lockdown, especially in rural areas. Exodus of migrant workers from big cities and towns, their struggle for livelihood, protracted closure of schools, and anxiety in poor communities about their children's immediate future were among the most contributing factors that led to child marriages. And since attendance in marriage functions was restricted to 20 or less, parents could hoodwink the law. Now, what are the health issues that these unfortunate girls would face post-COVID, and what are the remedies?
See, actually, as medical professionals, we often tend to ignore the societal structure and the cultural backgrounds. For us, oftentimes, maybe because of the volumes, maybe because of busy schedules, maybe because we're so engulfed in managing complications, etc., these social fiber and what impact it may have about the girls' and women's health often gets ignored. And especially in low middle income countries like India, the rural, where the girls and the women themselves are not empowered to make their own decisions. So anything else that comes their way, they have to quietly accept it. So having said that, yes, everything has escalated. Everything that is wrong has escalated during COVID times, inclusive of the 30-35% increase in stress and mental health disorders, and so many people needing the psychiatrist's visit and psychological counseling, but also quietly, secretively, as you said, the early marriages. Why have we brought in a law for the minimal age of marriage? Because it has huge implications. And the school dropouts, when it happens, even in the yesteryears, we had recognized that unless the girl continues her education beyond the 10th, 12th, she will be trapped into early marriage. So dropping out of schools was one of the primary prongs of, containing the early marriage issues, so that she's educated, she moves out probably into her career and employment and the economic empowerment that she has to make her own decisions. That's a huge thing in itself. As we speak today, 15 to 19 years, that is where the secrecy is there. Many times they'll manipulate the age also and then get them into marriage. So when the body, mind is still under the phase of development, neither physically nor mentally, they are prepared to get into either marriage or childbirth. So the contraception, again, is not in the forefront. The unmet need for contraception is huge. And that's why we have as many as 15 million unintended pregnancies as it is in our country. So early marriage, early pregnancies, and if they get pregnant and it's unintended, or they get sequentially pregnant at 15, 17 years, and the second pregnancy is aborted, and septic abortions and loss of lives. The teenage pregnancies, which is a very, very special category in our branch, where the pregnancy complications and the risks of becoming a case of high blood pressure and a case of obstructed labor and the trauma and the, the childbirth complications and loss of lives. Just imagine an 18-year-old or less than 18-year-old dying because of a preventable cause in childbirth. So it is as serious as that. So it is now we are campaigning not only for making sure that the minimal age of marriage is getting into a proper implementation, but also the minimal age at childbirth, at the first childbirth, and the spacing between the children. All of these are in the pipeline as issues because it's a social matter. It will not change overnight, and a need for the legal implication to implement this. It's a carrot and stick. You have to strike the stick sometimes to make people realize, hey, this is not the right social custom, and you need to change with not only with the times, but for the better of the girl herself. So in totality, yes, we agree that as in many other matters, this has also escalated. But even prior to COVID, the numbers were huge enough for us to have paid attention and done something about it long back. So if we think about yesterday all the time, I once again reiterate that we can't have a better tomorrow. So COVID has really jolted and made us wake up to the situation even more, aggressively than ever before. So this is the second best chance that we're having. So let's get at it, is what I would say.
Yes, correct. I think, as you said, COVID has really shaken us all up, and I think it's time to change a lot of things in society now. Now, you, of course, referred to this briefly in the beginning itself now, but in one of our earlier episodes also, you had discussed about cervical cancer and the need for adolescent girls to be educated and go for pap smear. How is the situation now? Has it improved? Have girls now coming, especially after COVID?
See, India is a very complex and a diverse country. And the second major problem is that we don't have robust documented data. So if you want to really say whether the trends are changing, yes, the perception is more people have got to know that there is also an HPV vaccine against cervical cancer, which means just like the polio vaccine, which helped us eradicate polio, we can ramp up the HPV vaccination in girls starting from the adolescent age group and eliminate the cancer cervix in toto, because we can just destroy the virus from the country itself. But knowing and doing, huge gap is there. Many more people, the percentage of people who are now aware may have increased, but where is the jab? Have they actually got it into their system? Are the parents making sure that the girls, again, this is a matter about the girls having the vaccination. The gender divide still exists. We cannot close our eyes to it. So if there was something between the daughter and the son, what the son should have got, maybe it would have been better implemented. That is the reality. So how much attention is paid? Where is it accessible? And what is the cost of it? So access and affordability. So the first prong, slight increase in the awareness, that we must accept. Yes, it is there, because when vaccines were made such a big hulla-gulla and issue during COVID, then people started paying attention to adult vaccination. Not only the girls and women, but also the doctors community started getting more alarmed. And, we said to everybody in our peer group, don't lose the opportunity. Any adolescent girl coming, jab her with the HPV vaccine. This is the right time to discuss that, because people are in the vaccination mindset and the hesitancy is the least. And somehow if you can get it there, it'll be a great thing to do. The journey has started, one small step, but I must confess that we have a long way to go. But if we focus and be at it, we will be able to get there, because the WHO has declared by 2030, they have to eliminate the cervical cancer. 90, 70, 90 is the ratio. And you also asked, interestingly, about the pap smear. Now that we have the trump card of vaccination, the focus investment of our time and energy on a mass scale for vaccination, if it is there, just like how we had our handle on the COVID situation, in the years to come, we will definitely have a handle on the HPV virus and eliminate cervical cancer. Of course, those who have missed the vaccination, the catch-up vaccination is also available until the age of 45 years. And the pap smear is now a little bit at the background, because the HPV testing itself is in the market now. So that is the new methodology that we as doctors are using for the testing. Irrespective of the test, the vaccine can anyways be given. But once in a lifetime doing the HPV test and proving whether you're HPV positive or not. Maybe at that point of time you're negative, but you never go back for a repeat test. Still, it is flawed in its own way. So we've come out with a mother and daughter program. Screen the mother, vaccinate the daughter. This kind of a couplet program would sensitize and cover most women and certainly most of the girls. And even in the school programs, we raise this topic in the Parent Teachers Association as well as to the community of the children in the schools who are pretty much aware. They will go and ask their moms and they'll force their mothers to come to the doctors and ask us about it. So it's a wonderful opportunity to escalate the demand through the adolescent group itself, because they are pretty smart. And the social media awareness also, in a very interesting way, if you put this forth to them, somehow it clicks in their head and heart. And I think if they themselves are coming forward, it is our duty to make it available and affordable to each one of them. That's where we are with respect to HPV vaccines.
It's a wonderful program, the mother and daughter initiative, the coverage, this one, and educating them. All this is fine, but what do you do with in rural areas where education is less, mothers are illiterate, and so do you have any program for them also where you can probably coax them to have this vaccine?
Actually, we want to just, the line between rural, urban, which we have always talking, that really it's time to blur that now. Anywhere, everywhere, every time girl, women goes for care, this is non-negotiable. This has to be as uniform as possible. And either the government or the public-private partnership or the private partners in collaboration with some NGOs will have to move the needle forward. It is our responsibility. Otherwise, we are failing our girls and women, Mr. Shankar, because if we wait forever and forever for things to happen on their own, obviously it will not happen. We have to think out of the box and make it happen. And for that, you'll be alarmed to find out so-called educated, so-called affordable, they can access it. Still, about more than 70% in the urban areas have also not taken the HPV vaccine. The gap is huge. So you ramp up from one side and then many testimonials, yes, these are taking, it is safe, it is good, etc., etc. Then even that buzz will percolate onto the less accessible areas. And if we position this as something which is really, really important for our girls and women, I think there will be many more initiatives that need to come to the forefront to cover the areas which are generally deemed to be not accessible and affordable. We have to reach out to them and make things happen. Yes, in few pockets, where some very aggressive, interested teams are there, they are implementing, but that's really a drop in the ocean because our numbers are really huge and we all need to get our act together in a very methodical and systematic way, because you saw an outstanding example with the COVID app with millions of hits there, with the messages coming in, with the buzz coming, and every time you pick up the phone, take the COVID, that kind of escalation of an advocacy campaign, that is what will be needed. After all, we should not forget that for a simple thing like polio, India was one of the, we could have done it better and earlier. So if that has taken, that much time, and COVID has proved, that's why the post-COVID era is special, because COVID has proven that if there is a will, there is a way, and we did it. The vaccination ramp up with respect to COVID was very, very impressive the world over. So why can't we do the same for HPV? It needs efforts and it needs a collective effort is what I would like to say.
You're absolutely right, because there is a lot of aspirational, level in rural areas in and around huge cities. For example, in Bangalore, the aspirational level probably in Ramnagara and other areas are, they'd like to imitate what's happening in Bangalore. So
sure.
I think that's a good point that you brought out, that, once you start in Bangalore and then it catches up, then naturally the rural population also would come up. Yes. But my question is Foxy trying to have some app like the COVID or something of that sort to initiate some movement somewhere, especially in urban areas?
The Foxy as a professional organization, I think we are far ahead than many other professional organizations world over, having taken many steps and initiatives to, bring this to the forefront. As we speak today, there are many vaccination awareness programs for the doctors themselves. Because what happens is, if the gynecologist wants to give it, then the pediatricians are also giving it. But in the family, there is an orthopedician. You go and ask him whether we should take it or not. He may or may not really know about it or encourage you to take it. So we want at least everybody singing the same song with respect to the medical fraternity and community. So a huge cross-sectoral, advocacy is going on to sensitize everybody to strengthen the supply side with a uniform voice, so that the vaccine hesitancy, etc., is, a thing of the past. And in the school programs, when we do the menstrual health and hygiene, there is a focus about the vaccination drive also. It is well within the Foxy module. And there are several projects that we have tied up with the WHO, the Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, and several other NGOs, where we as professional organization champions are in the forefront for advocacy, for implementation research, for actually jabbing in a private setting as many as they would send it to us. So there's also a discussion which has gone far ahead with the vaccine manufacturers themselves, so that they could give us the vaccines at a concessional rate, which again tackles the affordability bracket. And instead of one vaccine costing 3,000 rupees, if we get it at 1,000 rupees, we can vaccinate 3 girls instead of 1. So that's the kind of, every possible initiative that we are working our way around. And of course, since a decade, we are trying to influence the policymakers that this should come into the primary immunization schedule. And it is round the corner. It is, it requires a little more efforts and push from our end. And if with all stakeholders joining hands, I don't think the day is far away where it is on the immunization programs is one of the best in our country. If this gets included in the private practice, it's already included. Today, a girl child born at our hospital, we will say that all this is her immunization schedule. We have also now added the HPV vaccine when she's between the age of 9 and 14. This will be the last one that you will give her. So all the new mothers are anyhow sensitized. Okay, but if this comes into the Thai card or the government card, which is there, then it will get massively uniformized. And I think there are some concerns about the mass scale availability and affordability. So that is where, the discussions are going on. But I think that if we place enough value that this is something that we need to push it forth, I think it will soon happen. And that will be one of our dreams come through a professional organization as well. So we are trying in a 360-degree manner everything that we can do for screening and vaccination. There are separate subsects and committees for the cervical cancer Mukta Bharat. Like there's an anemia Mukta Bharat that has been announced by the government. And we've said cervical cancer Mukta Bharat has been announced by Foxy. And the FIGO, which is our international organization, is also joining hands, because in low middle income countries, they want India to be the role model as to whatever works in India in a complex manner, want to take it to all the other Asian regions and the African regions. So we have a lot of cross collaborative stakeholders help as well. So we want to encash it to the best possible way so that we see some impact on the ground.
That's wonderful. I think good initiative from the private sector, of course. As you said, you include it in the vaccination schedule, especially in private hospitals. And as you said, once it gets onto the government card, it's a massive thing. At the same time, we need to address the issue of vaccine availability also. It's a good point that you brought about. Now, I'll come back to COVID. Now, COVID left a lot of adolescents orphaned. How do you look at their future, especially the girls?
Again, this is a social factor which will definitely impact a pocket of the generation next. But coming to think of the reality, the parents in the COVID era were also so stressed that even if the adolescent girls had the parents, the parents couldn't overcome their own stress and handle some delicate problems with the adolescents. That also we have seen. So adolescents themselves, at least in the urban areas, and because of the social media, the YouDost, and there are many other platforms available in an anonymous and a confidential manner, the numbers have escalated massively, which means that they need help. That is for sure. And the mental health problems and challenges have really, really escalated, and we cannot still match the supply and demand, because the supply side of who would counsel them, how it will be appropriate, how it will be culturally relevant, and how it will get them to be in a better state of mind and body is still a huge challenge, because the workforce for reaching the adolescents with respect to all of these, even adolescents with the parents, the capacity building of this workforce to deliver some quality care to the adolescent population is a must. And we don't have a structured kind of a module developed for that. But the adolescents without parents, usually it is more the extended family structure which comes to the rescue, rather than a professional medical organization or we as doctors. And just I would think it is just lip sympathy, because we really can't get in there and do more, because it is like out of the purview. And maybe one-off anecdotal case, we may have helped them to connect with somewhere that they can be taken care of and placed. But it is it is a anecdotal and individual kind of experience. But as a community, yes, there is much talk about it, but where it has landed the orphaned adolescent is something that each one, Mr. Shankar, will have a story to tell. Each one of them, because it is so bizarre, and it is, it is a touch point which is very complex and emotionally very disturbing. But we really have to think that, God is there to take care. That's the kind of a situation that we've landed up in.
Yes. Very unforeseen times that we had. It never occurred to us that there would be such a population of adolescent people who are, orphaned so early in life. I think they should learn to catch the ropes as early as possible. I now come to another issue. There is now global data indicating high levels of psychological distress among postpartum mothers during the pandemic. The rate of anxiety and depression almost doubled compared to non-COVID times. In Karnataka alone, there was this unfortunate suicide of the granddaughter of a famous politician. Now, what are your views, or what do you suggest in this?
I think postpartum depression, again, by itself is a very, very important issue in the women's healthcare space, which even in the pre-COVID era, I come back to the same sentence, that it was pushed under the carpet. Many clinicians did not have the bandwidth to even recognize it and do something about it, and each one was left to themselves. We had tied up with the NIMHANS to do a study, because the postnatal depression scores, as we call it, it's called the Edinburgh score. The questions did not relate to our mothers at all. I mean, if they were made to answer that score sheet, you wouldn't have gathered anything from there. So the NIMHANS team worked towards this special issue and brought out an Indian system of actually calibrating the depression scores for postnatal women, which we have to do for every single postnatal case. That means 30 million such forms should have been filled ideally, but the doctors group who are aware of this or who pay attention to this, etc., was dismal. But the post-COVID has brought this again as a very, very important issue. Now, when we speak of women's health, mental health is definitely now, included. And as we speak, the Poshan Abhiyan from the government has brought out a nutritional assessment card for the pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, and post-pregnancy. Now, Mr. Shankar, they have added in the nutritional assessment the mental assessment as well. So it has come in the government card. That means they have been sensitized enough. They've paid attention to this. The policy has changed towards paying attention and doing something about the mental health. Again, I have to underline and underscore the issue of the quality. yes, the recognition is there. That's a first step. It has come into the card, and the private also has been sensitized. But still, there is a lot more for us to do, because who is doing it, how they're doing it, is talking about it enough? What is the short-term and the long-term care that needs to be given? And overall, mental health and anxiety, both in pregnancy and postpartum in the COVID times, has been really, really challenging for us as clinicians, because so many questions asked during pregnancy also for which we didn't have any answers. Whether my child will be growth restricted, whether they'll be malformed, can I breastfeed or not? There was a phase where we didn't have the recommendations or the directives from the government as to what we should be telling, what not, etc., because it was all in a confusing phase. And you can quite imagine the anxiety of the to-be parents in that phase, where nothing was known to them and nothing was known to us either. So we've churned this issue in such a manner that now everybody has recognized that when we say the definition of wellness or health as being both physical and mental health, until today, until the post-COVID era, I do not think that the phrase of mental health wellness was taken seriously. And now we've just started paying attention to it. But at least something has to begin somewhere. So this has begun. Many have included it into a standard of care, kind of the respectful care and the mental health and well-being during pregnancy and postpartum. Postpartum depression is indeed a huge issue, and it's leading to catastrophic endpoints, where abandoning the child or abandoning her own life, etc., has brought it to the forefront, with one example from one family, as you said, to many others. So there is I think the post-COVID era has at least allowed us to loudly and clearly voice out our concerns on these matters, and everything would take time, but I think in another 5 to 10 years, it'll be a norm, like how you assess the weight, height, BMI, etc. The mental health scores also will be put down. HPV vaccination also will come. All these should become the standard of care, and it would be the standard of care sooner than later, because these were some issues which we have been struggling since the past decade and a half. But now acceleration is happening because of COVID. So I should really be thankful for that situation, which has made us all run faster than ever before. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, would at the same time, would encouraging would-be mothers to create their own listening circle of friends, finding ways of continuous contact with women who have had previous episodes of postpartum issues, depression, and other mental health programs help out? Do you have something of this program in your clinic?
The group therapy, what we say, it works both ways, because socially and culturally, they're not open to discussing their problems in a group. That happens fairly easily in the West, because that has always been, one of the, routine methodologies of counseling and the therapy. But here, it is different kind and different takers. So they would rather prefer anonymity and confidentiality. So I think this is the best, opportunity for us to encash the digital platforms to reach them. And even over there, if there is a, communication within a circle, but the awareness of which are these circles, and are they doing more harm than good? Because some, women's minds are very complex and very delicate. If they sometimes listen to other people's stories, they may get even more frightened. I can tell you the truth. So each one, when we say individualized, tailor-made, treatment, this also is something that I would think personally that it really, really requires an individualized, tailor-made counseling. That would be the ideal. But generally, the platforms like Headspace, etc., which is booming today. And why, if the same Headspace would have come pre-COVID, it would have been rubbished off. But now everybody wants to get into that space to have their peace of mind, and also the yoga and the breathing has been well accepted and taken. And I think they are now recognizing with their own experience that this is better. So the women's circles, ideally, just like, the the economic and the society backgrounds are also so mixed up. If anybody gets into any women's circle, it will not work for her because she can't relate to many of the things that other women are saying. That's what we have found as the problem. So it has to be, in a group where eligibility for different groups should be different. And then it's at least, it's as how we say, like-minded will come together. So at least they can relate to what each other is saying with their experience. So that is what makes things very challenging in our country, especially the language, because if 10 women from different languages and they cannot understand a common language, then it's a complete washout. So there is a need to create forums such as these in many languages. It may be happening in small circles, but it's not a cohesive movement as such. And it's a very good idea indeed as an idea. But when it actually gets implemented, there's very little it's doing at the moment. On the contrary, the Janani helpline, which we had established, anybody from anywhere can ring and can place their language of choice, and it will go to the doctor who can speak her language. So she has a one-to-one conversation, and it's anonymous and it's free of cost, even just for them to pour out. We may not be able to do much, but they will say what they want to say. And we have found a sense of relief even in that. So about 600 members of POXI on the Janani platform who have reached about more than, 2 million women so far. So that is not a very big number for our country, but still it is something somewhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think, as you said, there is even a small group of like-minded mothers come together. It may probably help out. But as you said, there are other issues also. But more, and we should encash on this digital wave that is happening. Probably we need to think through this. Now, I'll come to another controversial question. Now, the Lancet Commission for Global Surgery says that C-section is the most performed surgery in India. Now, there are reports that it could be costing Indian families as much as 5,000 crore extra every year. The sobering conclusion emerges from an analysis of data compiled by 3 official reports released recently by the Sample Registration System, the Civil Registration System, and the National Statistical Office. Can you elaborate on this?
Actually, we've thrown some challenging questions on this publication.
That is exactly what I want.
Yeah, because first of all, the primary care for pregnant women, including the pre-pregnancy care, which gets them to embark on the pregnancy in the optimal situation, and the care thereof in the pregnancy period or antenatal period, and the networking and the referral system to driving them to the district hospital, which is the nearest big place where the complications can be handled. Is it all happening as expected and on time? That is the key question that we must ask ourselves, because if she lands up in a situation where it becomes life-threatening both for her and or her child, there may be no option at that last point in time except doing a quick C-section and saving lives. That is the first point. The second thing is monitoring and supervised delivery so that all these things are taken care of and then sent to the right place at the right time. That is a huge constraint because there ought to be one human resource, that is a skilled birth attendant, between 2 patients who are in labor. But as of today, we have one skilled birth attendant for 20 patients in labor. Where can she go? What can she see? That's the second constraint. The third constraint is in small rural areas. So 60% of our patients are going to the private hospitals for their delivery. And over there, if there are a cluster of 6 nursing homes, the reality is that there is only one anesthesiologist who says, yes, I will cover all the 6 nursing homes, but 10 to 12 is your time, 12 to 2 is your time, 2 to 4 is your time, and so on and so forth. So if she has a patient in labor, and if she knows that she's not going the right way, and if she waits too much, she will not get the anesthesiologist on call because he's gone, he's moved away further. And then she's stuck because this patient is not delivering normally, and then the C-section is also not possible, and the outcome is not as anticipated. So these are actually the ground realities. besides this, the fourth thing what is happening is, in the urban areas, the expectations are too high, and the challenging cases in terms of elderly patients, patients who have conceived from IVF, and patients who have diabetes in pregnancy, hypertensive disorders in pregnancy, all the lifestyle related comorbid conditions which do not allow us to even give them a chance until term to let them have a trial of labor, as we call. So it's not as if we are making many excuses to justify the C-sections, but what we have now uniformized throughout the country is something called the Robson's classification. That means we're not asking you why you're doing a section. Having done the section, put it in class 1 to 10. Okay, that will actually show the trend as to why these many sections are happening in this class. For example, if you place it in class 5, it is a patient who has had the previous time also the C-section. So it's a repeat C-section that we are getting into, which may be the right thing to do, because even if you one-to-one monitor very diligently, if the previous section scar ruptures, then you lose the mother and the baby and both. And you cannot, if you have to transport her to a higher center, which will take minimum 2 hours, that is not, something that one would accept. We would rather plan and electively do a repeat C-section. These kind of situations, which are the real situations in the Indian context, need to be objectively put forth, and then say that it is not the numbers of C-sections which we are talking about, it is the outcome that we are focusing. If we would have reduced the number of C-sections, how many more mothers and how many more babies would have died in our context? That is also something that we have to pay attention to. So you cannot generalize that C-section rate should be 10%, 15%. It should not be more than 25% or so. If once this data on classification is available both from urban and rural India, we would be putting that forth so that supervised deliveries, timely transfers, proper action, and more chance for a C-section. And pre-pregnancy and pregnancy care being so robust that all these comorbidities, which I said, should come to the minuscule bracket, then it will be a low-risk, normal, healthy pregnancy, which can have a healthy, normal baby through a vaginal delivery. So there is so much to it, which we need to explain both to the policymakers and the world at large, that it comes across as if, we are doing too many sections and justifying the same. That's not the case. We too want to reduce the numbers if these situations are minimized. Then you present us with the, proper situation where, yes, we can boldly and safely give a trial for normal delivery. Why not? Yeah. And also for normal delivery, it does not require a high-fi skilled obstetrician. They can be left alone to really handle the complicated cases. We have to have more skilled workforce. If 30 million deliveries are happening, do we have at least 1 million skilled mother and newborn assistants to manage this? We don't. There is a huge skill gap. So who is managing, how it is happening? And at least we managed to diminish the maternal mortality and infant mortality to a significant extent with all the efforts that have been taken both by the government and the private sector so far. I think it's a very huge opportunity to prove ourselves that we can do better, having overcome the challenges which I do not think many other countries or any other countries would overcome in the way that we have.
Interestingly, Dr. Hema, I think in the last episode, the last Sunday, in Your Health Counter with Dr. Amitabh Banerjee, he probably said the same thing as what you said, that we should not blindly follow the Western data, Western study, because they do not know the ground realities in India. And it is better that we have our own studies and our own data to back. And as you rightly said, the reasons for it, sitting in the West, they don't understand all this. I think that you're rightly put. Now, I'll come to another issue. There are reports that infertility is growing, especially in the urban areas due to lifestyle issues, obesity. And in our last episode also, one senior doctor had said that long COVID can even affect the quality of sperms. So how far is infertility becoming a huge problem, especially among the young population?
The young population is not getting married on time and conceiving on time. So the infertility is also a special bracket for the 35 plus who are into their careers, and the women are at least a small subset of them are empowered to decision make as to when they want to go in for a pregnancy. So that is fairly a significant bracket in the urban areas at least. Then there are many mushrooming centers where it's put up as a fertility center. So any young couple who thinks that they need to fast track their conception, even though they can conceive naturally, they'll rush to these centers and labeled as infertility, because once they go in there, they will get onto a bracket of treatment, at least the preliminary assessment, etc., because the mother-in-laws of the world are pressurizing them to get in quick to the reproductive phase as such. And the stress factor, I would think, is huge. And even the timed planned relations or intercourse, which we say during the ovulation time, that's been a huge challenge. And movies like Good News, etc., has brought that into the forefront. And so the reasons for recognizing that the infertility cases are increasing is also because the Asian population, the ovarian aging is earlier than the rest of the world. Originally 50 years back, we had all our mothers in the age of 20, 22, 25, where we didn't even recognize that by 30 or 32, potentially, because she's an Asian ethnicity, she can have an ovary which is aging very fast and may not have the potential to fertilize. So this is coming out as a premature ovarian insufficiency is a huge chunk, which scientifically speaking is also the reason for enhanced numbers of infertility. And of course, the more data we have, we will know the actual trends beyond the perception that everybody has, and we will know the real reasons, and we will figure out a way to combat it.
Yeah. Briefly, before I go on to my co-host Kishore, have you come across this particular study where the long COVID affects the sperm quality?
Actually, the COVID and the long COVID, even the vaccines, as far as we know, there is already a lot of data on how it even affects the menstrual pattern of the women. Okay, so that means it affects the endometrial lining or the lining of the womb for sure. But the sperms are also impacted with many other issues. So the data is still being gathered. A few studies have published one way or the other. Many do not agree with that as of now. We are also partners in providing the data to a global registry. But as of now, the interim analysis is not showing a definite cause and effect relationship. So we've just got to take it in our stride for the moment and see how it pans out.
Probably wait for more data to come in.
Yes.
Over to you, Kishore, for your question.
थैंक यू सर. डॉक्टर हेमा, मेरा एक ही सवाल है आपसे
जी.
जैसा कि अभी बात हुई और हमेशा बात होती है अर्ली प्रेगनेंसी और चाइल्ड बर्थ की,
जी,
हमेशा बात होती है, और हम सभी जानते हैं कि एक सोशल इशू है. लेकिन एक डॉक्टर की क्या भूमिका होती है इसमें, इसको रोकने में? आप इसको अपने अनुभव से बताइए कि क्या डॉक्टर की भी कोई भूमिका है इसमें?
डॉक्टर की भूमिका होनी चाहिए, उतना तो मैं जरूर कहना चाहूंगी, क्योंकि अभी हम जो हमारे सोच विचार अभी फैल रहे हैं, तो वो प्राइमरीली जो हम एक मुद्दा को देखते हैं, जब ये वो आई, किस चीज के लिए आई है, उसको क्विक फिक्स कर लो और हाथ धो लो, ऐसा अभी नहीं हमको करना है. हमको उसके पूरे इर्द गिर्द के, अगर एक महिला आई उनके मेंस्ट्रुअल प्रॉब्लम लेके, तो हमको ये भी पूछताछ करना पड़ेगा कि उसके कितने बच्चे हैं, उसमें डॉटर है, डॉटर कितनी उम्र की है, वो अभी क्या कर रही है, देखो उनके आप ऐसे देखभाल करो और ऐसे सोच विचार करो. सोशल फैक्टर्स पे भी हमको एट एवरी टच पॉइंट, जब जब हमको मौका मिले, ये बात हमको छेड़नी चाहिए एज मेडिकल प्रोफेशनल्स, क्योंकि आज तक भी जो डॉक्टर गूगल हो, कोई भी हो, लेकिन हमारे कहने के भी उन्होंने मायने रखते हैं. क्योंकि कौन उनको कह रहा है और किस चीज के लिए हम कह रहे हैं, उसके तो उन लोग उतने तो मर्यादा उसको देते ही है, और उसके अनुसार उनके सोच विचार बदलने का काम हमको उसका ठेका लेना है, ऐसे मैं मानती हूँ। वो हमारे टाइम के अनुसार या हमारे ब्रैकेट ऑफ स्कोप ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट जो हम देते हैं, उसमें भले वो डिक्टेटेड नहीं हो, फिर भी हमको होलसम ट्रीटमेंट जब भी हम देना चाहते हैं, जब भी हम हर मौके को ऐसे ढूंढते हुए आगे निकलना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारे पास महिलाएं आज के दिन में आ रही है, कुछ न कुछ चीजों के लिए आ रही है। तो व्हेन दे आर रीचिंग आउट टू अस, वी हैव टू एड्रेस दीज, क्योंकि उनके सोच विचार पे भी परिणाम पड़े तो मुझे लगता है कि बच्चियों और जास्ती बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ बेटा समझाओ ऐसे सभी जो हम बोल रहे हैं और नारे लगा रहे हैं, वो सिर्फ नारे में नहीं रहना चाहिए, वो इट हैज टू रीच टू द ग्राउंड लेवल। तो अगर एक महिला अपने घर पे एक गांव में अपने बेटी के लिए लड़ सकती है कि इनको पढ़ाई हम कंटिन्यू करेंगे, इनके शादी इनको तय करने दीजिए कब करना है, तो आई थिंक किसी का सोच बदलना उतना आसान नहीं है। एटलीस्ट हमको कोशिश तो जारी रखना चाहिए। तो 50 साल पहले जैसे महिलाएं थी आज के दिन में नहीं है, मतलब स्लोली हो तो उतना तो बदलाव हुआ है, और अगले 20 साल में फास्ट ट्रैक में और बहुत कुछ बदलाव होने वाला है, ऐसे में उम्मीद रखते हुए कहती हूँ कि हर व्यक्ति को, नॉट ओनली डॉक्टर्स लेकिन समाज में हर व्यक्ति को, और इसमें सिर्फ महिलाएं नहीं, the men are also important, boys and men also इसमें शामिल होना चाहिए ये विचारधारा में कि उनको भी सपोर्ट करना चाहिए कि yes, we are all, after all, the bottom line is we are all human beings. Men and women may be equal, but they are different and they need the different kind of hand holding through the journey in their own lives.
आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा डॉक्टर हेमा। सरकारी स्लोगन्स और विज्ञापन पे उतना भरोसा लोगों को नहीं है जितना कि एक डॉक्टर या हेल्थ एक्सपर्ट, वेलनेस एक्सपर्ट उनको बताए तो वो उनको सही और अच्छा लगता है, और इसमें डॉक्टर की भूमिका बहुत बढ़ जाती है। थैंक यू। ओवर टू यू मिस्टर शंकर।
Thank you, Kishore. And before I leave you, Dr. Hema, and we have others also who are there with us, Dr. Niyamat Bawa, Dr. Sonia Rawat, Ms. Shumo Banik, Ms. Neelam Mishra, all of them there. I would just like to have one brief answer from you. You know, we are dealing with adolescents. Now, these adolescents is a complete, a group who are neither kids, who are neither adults, and the kids don't understand them, the parents don't understand them, and they themselves don't understand themselves. So this is an experimental group. So have you in your practice come across, unwanted pregnancies?
Oh, yes, plenty of them. That is why, I always said that we cannot just be closing our eyes to the realities of the sexual behavior pattern of the adolescents. So when we did a survey and published it, whom these adolescents go to get any insights into any contraceptive methodology that they can use. So 85% of them said social media, about 5 to 7% said their friends, and only 3 to 5% said they will ask any doctor or a family practitioner or anything. So they are not seeking our help anyways, but we have to be present on the social media to tell them the right things. That is the way forward. And also some doctors of the Esther era do not believe in asking direct questions to the adolescents and asking if they need any help or advice for the concerns that they're having. And it's called youth-friendly services, which has not yet become a reality. And हमको वो बात छेड़नी चाहिए about contraception, which will be of use to her even if she doesn't ask us directly. Because always prevention is better than cure. So if she knew what she should have done, okay, then this unwanted pregnancy would have been avoided. And we should also counsel her, do not be afraid if they are smart enough to go and get their pregnancy test done at home and, they know that it's positive. We have to also tell the availability of a medical abortion. So they have to seek help early rather than going to any unknown or, illegal kind of a healthcare provider. We have to support them. And this is an opportunity for us to further counsel them not to get into this cycle of unwanted pregnancies again and again. And the medical abortion pills are very much available and safe as on today. So yet again, we will lose an opportunity to do our best to them. It's always said that, don't drink, but if you drink, don't drive. So abstain, but if you do have sex, have safe sex. That is the kind of some messages we have to drive it into their head so that they are aware that if they are in a situation such as what I spoke now, they should know what to do about it, and they may not directly approach us, but we have to make the environment digitally available to them to seek help. And when I said 15 million unintended pregnancy, more than 5 million pregnancies every year are unintended in the adolescent age group. We may have the remedies, but you just can imagine the impact it will have on their thinking and their psyche and the further growth and expansion that she deserves to have in her own life. So as I said, you reap as you sow. So you need to sow the seeds of preventive care very robustly in this age group. If not now, then when again is the question we have to ask ourselves.
On a lighter note, Dr. Hema,
जी,
जब से पेट्रोल डीजल के दाम बहुत बढ़ गए हैं, एक जोक्स मार्केट में चल रहा है
जी
कि पेट्रोल बियर सस्ती हो गई है और पेट्रोल के दाम बढ़ गए हैं, तो ये कहते हैं कि डोंट ड्राइव, जस्ट ड्रिंक.
Just drink. मैंने देखा हुआ है वो बस. So उसको आप ये सेक्स के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में उसको ट्रांसलेट न कीजिए.
Madam, it was a very good suggestion that you gave. This is Dr. Sonia Rawat. Can I just add that I actually worked in the United Kingdom. And we are actually a very conservative society as yet. मतलब ऊपर से conservative है, अंदर से we are very open.
बिल्कुल.
People are actually more aware of all this, especially the today's generation. है ना? वहाँ पर मैडम क्या होता था कि there was a very good relationship because as such contraceptives and all, they were not available without prescription of the doctors. So there was a very good relationship between the GPs, the general practitioners, and the young children.
Yes.
Like I'm talking about the 11 to 15 year age group.
Yes.
And most of them, as you know, once they are like in their middle school, they have friends, they develop friends, and friends is like a more of a as that they are exploring their body, what's happening to them, they are trying to find out various things. So it's more of a sexual relationship, I would say, rather than just a friendly relationship, coochie-cooing type of a relationship which we have in India. But India में भी मैम अभी जो higher state of the society and बहुत lower state of the society है, we middle class may be still maintaining that conservatism, but the higher
that's what we think, but our study shows that more than 75% are already into premarital sexual activity for sure.
I agree with you, but उसमें भी अगर आप sub divide करेंगे तो it will be mainly the higher strata, highermost strata and the lowermost strata. What I'm trying to say is we used to actually manage the Gillick competence in the United Kingdom. Whenever, say, for example, if an adolescent is walking alone without their parents, so we would actually ask them certain questions. कि अच्छा तुमको ये पता है तुम क्या कर रहे हो? Do you exactly know the consequences? ठीक है, तुम contraceptive मेरे से मांग रही हो, so do you know what exactly is contraceptive? Do you know what are the consequences? Do you know what are the side effects? Those sort of things. अगर वो बच्चा मुझे सही से, because look, most of them are very much internet friendly. They've already gone through all that in the internet, so they will actually come and just spat it out. But apart from that also कि आप देख रहे हो कि बच्चे ने रटाया कुछ बोल दिया, आपने ये भी देखा है कि बच्चे के दिमाग में वो चीज कितनी घर कर गई है कि बच्चे को पता है कि भाई मैं 11 से 15 साल की उम्र में लड़की हूँ, तो उसको पता है कि भाई जैसे आपने अभी बोला कि even if you have sex, have safe sex, so उसको ये पता है कि भाई she has to use a condom, or she has in order to avoid sexually transmitted infections, because most of them they have these sexually transmitted diseases. अगर हम उनको वो करने बैठे हैं, तो you know most of them they come to the doctors to actually get treatment for chlamydia and all. You know,
Yeah.
so as you know, the chlamydia is a very major important cause for infertility in later years of life also. So
Yes.
what I'm trying to say is, ma'am, कि हमें वो जो taboo वो है जो आपने अभी बोला कि सोशल मीडिया में रादर चले जाएंगे rather than go to a doctor and speak to a doctor, वो हमें खत्म करना है. And then talking to somebody, relationship should be formed either to a friend or to a colleague or to their parents or to the doctor or to an uncle or to an auntie, you know, whoever they feel comfortable with. So that talking, as you know, most of these adolescents, they get depressed also, they get anxious also. So talking therapy is the treatment of choice, because इतनी young उम्र में आप उनको दवाइयाँ तो दे नहीं सकते हो.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is कि गिलिक competence, मतलब हमें वो taboo break करना है. हमारे इंडिया में जो छुपा हुआ taboo है ना कि भाई ऊपर से तो सब ठीक चल रहा है, iceberg is like this, but we don't know what is the like 2/3 of the iceberg inside the water, you know. And this is what is actually happening in India.
So I agree with you entirely.
I think wonderfully good, Dr. Sonia, wonderfully good. I think we will come to your session next, because you're there in the next session. So I think you need to have a more detailed talk on this. And it was wonderful having you with us, Dr. Hema. And one more thing I would like to say is that, you know, apart from all this, you have a lot of influence through movies, through television serials, to this younger generation. I think that is also a great influential factor, and a very experimental state that these people have. But as you said, yes, they know a lot of things and they move forward. I think that's we need to take care of that. Thank you very much. And as usual, it was a very nice session that we had with you. And we'll come back to you later also with more questions. Thank you very much.
Namaste, and thank you for hosting these kind of shows and collecting us on a same platform to disseminate a lot. And I think this is a wonderful initiative. Congratulations. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia.
Now we have the session intro video. Admin, please play the session intro video. welcome back. Let me remind our viewers that we are live on Facebook and YouTube. We now move on to the next session, session 3, another important session on prioritizing adolescent health in post-COVID times. And to discuss this issue, we have with us Dr. Sonia Rawat, currently the Director at Department of Preventive Health and Wellness, Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi. Dr. Neelam Mishra, a seasoned mental health expert and clinical psychologist with extensive background in providing assessment and therapeutic intervention to children, adolescents, young adults, and the elderly. She has been practicing for about a decade and has experience in the field of child psychology, adult psychology, geriatric psychology. She specializes in providing neuro-rehabilitation, supporting individuals with cognitive impairments arising because of dementia, stroke, epilepsy, or traumatic brain injury. We also have with us Dr. Ms. Shoma Banik, leads Happy Periods organization and has worked extensively on menstrual health, nutrition, adolescent health. She has worked in different capacities to ensure health and well-being of adolescents in remote pockets of India. Her passion lies in creating period-ready spaces, and this led to initiation of her project, Happy Periods, in rural Gujarat, where she reached 30,000 girls, over 200 health workers across 900 villages. And then we have Ms. Aisha Khan, currently serving as HOD nutritionist, Regency Hospital, Kanpur. She has over 13 years of experience. Last but not the least, we have Ms. Namat Bhava, who is the head psychologist at EPSI Clinic, India's pioneer and a trusted mental health application. Welcome all of you to the session 3. Glad to have you all on our platform. I'll now hand it over to Dr. Kishore Malviya for his round of questions.
थैंक यू सर. मेरा पहला सवाल डॉक्टर सोनिया रावत से है. डॉक्टर सोनिया, अभी थोड़ी देर पहले आपने सेक्सुअली ट्रांसमिटेड डिजीज की बात की थी. आज हम जिस ग्रुप की बात कर रहे हैं, एडोलेसेंट की, उस एज ग्रुप में क्या सेक्सुअली ट्रांसमिटेड डिजीज के लिए सबसे ज्यादा वल्नरेबल है, और है तो क्यों है?
बिल्कुल है. एक तो जैसे हमने पहले बात करी कि उनको ज्यादा नॉलेज नहीं है, उनको ज्यादा क्यूरियोसिटी रहती है about sex and having sex. So obviously, they forget to use certain contraceptions. सबसे ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट जो कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव उनको यूज करना चाहिए वो कॉन्डोम है, क्योंकि कॉन्डोम से कई तरह की बीमारियां जो है वो बची जा सकती हैं. इन एज ग्रुप्स में क्लमीडिया बहुत ज्यादा कॉमन है, क्योंकि आमतौर पे देखा गया है कि वो तो बच्चे हैं, तो एक फेथफुलनेस, they may be sort of just playing up, they may be just sort of having casual sex in a party or something like that. तो उसमें क्या है कि एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पे सेक्सुअली ट्रांसमिटेड डिजीजेस का मतलब क्या होता है? सेक्स द्वारा ट्रांसमिसिबल डिजीजेस. तो इसमें सबसे ज्यादा क्लैमाइडिया इन्फेक्शन होता है. क्लैमाइडिया जो है वो फैलता है एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पे, एक पर्सन से दूसरे पर्सन पे फैलता है, और एक तरह से ये पिंग पोंग बॉल की तरह, जैसे हम टेबल टेनिस खेलते हैं, हमने उसको बॉल फेंकी, उसने हमें बॉल फेंकी, हमने उसको बॉल फेंकी, उसने हमें बॉल फेंकी, वैसे ही वो पिंग पोंग बॉल की तरह जब तक पूरी तरह आदमी या औरत या बच्चा या बच्ची ट्रीट नहीं हो जाते हैं, तब तक वो इन्फेक्शन जो है वो फैलता रहता है. इसी तरह से दूसरे इन्फेक्शंस भी हैं, जैसे गोनोरिया हुआ या सिफिलिस हुआ. आजकल तो इतने कॉमन नहीं है, लेकिन प्रीवियस एरा में सिफिलिस, गोनोरिया बहुत कॉमन थे. अभी जो है वो क्लमीडिया इन्फेक्शन बहुत कॉमन है, और दूसरे तरह के इन्फेक्शंस भी देखे गए हैं जो मेनली यूरिनरी ट्रैक्ट, हमारे पेशाब के रास्ते को भी इफेक्ट कर सकते हैं.
मिस नीलम मिश्रा, आप अनम्यूट कर लीजिए. पीयर प्रेशर,
आवाज नहीं आ रही.
हाँ आ रही है, अब आ रही है. इस ग्रुप के लिए, इस एज ग्रुप के लिए पीयर प्रेशर एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या है. अपने दोस्तों की तरह फिट रहना, उससे ज्यादा फिट रहना, उससे ज्यादा स्मार्ट रहना, ये प्रेशर जो है अंत में एक मेंटल हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम को क्रिएट करता है। आप अपने अनुभव से बताएं कि जो मेंटल हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम इस ग्रुप में होते हैं, इस ग्रुप के बच्चों में होते हैं जो आपसे संपर्क करते होंगे, उसमें इसका कितना हिस्सा है इस पीयर प्रेशर का?
सर देखिए, मेरा ग्लोबल जो भी एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, प्रोबेबली व्हाइल प्रैक्टिसिंग इन यूके और इन इंडिया एट सर गंगाराम हॉस्पिटल, आई हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ पेशेंट्स कमिंग डाउन, और आई वुड नॉट से पेशेंट्स, दे आर क्लाइंट्स इन जनरल. So they do a lot of Googling these days, and there is a lot of other things happening in the group. So people are considering their friends knows everything, and there is a certain kind of standard they have to maintain for the living. So you will see right now in Delhi, you are seeing a different style happening everywhere in the dressing. Everybody is copying other one. That has a ritual which has come very phenomenally in the Indian population. It has come to the dressing, to the lifestyle, to the other social media platforms. So everybody is actually following the other one.
Sorry to interrupt you, नीलम जी, अगर आप हिंदी में बताएं तो ज्यादा अच्छा रहेगा।
अच्छा, तो सर इसमें क्या हो रहा है कि हर बच्चा दूसरे को कॉपी करने में इंटरेस्टेड है। अब इसमें क्या होता है, सब अलग अलग तरह की फैमिली से आ रहे हैं, अलग अलग कल्चर से आ रहे हैं। हर कोई जब एक दूसरे को फॉलो कर रहा है तो कहीं ना कहीं फैमिली के साथ एडजस्ट करने में प्रॉब्लम हो रही है, क्योंकि डिफरेंट माइंडसेट। आप एक तरह से, जैसे कि फॉर एन एग्जांपल, आप कॉलेज जाते हैं, स्कूल तो फिर भी एक यूनिट है जहां पर प्रोबेबली सब सेम इकोनॉमिकल रेंज के लोग होते हैं, लेकिन व्हेन यू गो टू द कॉलेज, वहां क्या होता है कि सब लोग अपने आप से डिफरेंट है। हर कोई डिफरेंट फैमिली से आ रहा है, सबका अपना इकोनॉमिकल बैकग्राउंड अपना है, सबके कन्वेंशनल आइडियाज अलग हैं पेरेंट्स के साथ। ये बच्चे जब क्लिनिक में आते हैं, कई बार अकेले, कई बार पेरेंट्स के साथ, तो मोस्टली यहाँ पर देखा जाता है कि जनरेशन गैप नोटिस होता है बहुत ज्यादा पेरेंट्स के और बच्चों के बीच में। कोई बैलेंसिंग नहीं होती और उन्हें समझाना इतना मुश्किल होता है उस बच्चों के कि जो हम कह रहे हैं वही सही है, आप इनसे बात करिए, ये हमें ठीक से नहीं समझते हैं, ये हमें रोकते हैं, ये हमें आने जाने क्यों नहीं देते। So far said by Dr. Sonia Rawat that they actually get into the casual sex in the parties, and that has become a ritual. Since it's a social platform and you are marking it online also, it's going now, you will get to know gradually of the time every girl or a boy has scored that how many people have they slept with. And if somebody is not having sex in a particular age, 16, 17, 18, other people create so much pressure on them that, oh my God, तुम तो छोटे बच्चे हो, तुमने ये नहीं किया, तुमने ये नहीं किया। अब सामने वाले बच्चे को समझ ही नहीं आता है कि ये सही है या ये गलत है। उसको ये करना पड़ रहा है क्योंकि बाकी बच्चे ये कर रहे हैं, उसके लिए जरूरी हो गया है करना। बहुत बार बच्चे ऐसे आते हैं जो बोलते हैं कि मैं तो सिर्फ इसलिए कर लिया क्योंकि दोस्त बोल रहे थे कि तुमने अभी तक ये नहीं किया। पहली चीज। दूसरी चीज, ये फैशन में भी आता है। हर कोई अपनी कंजर्वेटिव फैमिली से आ रहा है या लिबरल फैमिली से आ रहा है। ड्रिंकिंग हैबिट्स एक बहुत नॉर्मल चीज बन चुकी है। देयर आर सम पेरेंट्स जो अलाउ करते हैं, कुछ पेरेंट्स हैं जो अलाउ नहीं करते हैं, क्योंकि कॉलेज की पार्टीज में अगर आप देखेंगे तो सारी पार्टीज अब रात में होने लगी है। व्हेन यू गो टू 90s एरा तो कॉलेजेस की पार्टीज दिन में होती थी, लेकिन अब कॉलेजेस की पार्टी स्पेसिफिकली क्लब में हो रही है और रात में प्लान हो रही है। तो वो इन्फ्लुएंस कर रहे हैं इस कल्चर को कि जी आप ड्रिंक्स कर सकते हैं और आप रात में अकेले आपको घर वापस जाना होगा अगर पेरेंट्स अवेलेबल नहीं है। अब इसमें बच्चे झूठ बोल कर आते हैं, इसमें बच्चे और भी वो चीजें करते हैं जो उन्हें पेरेंट्स से छुपानी होती है। तो ये पीयर प्रेशर ही तो हुआ ना, जिससे उनका पूरा लाइफस्टाइल अफेक्ट हो रहा है।
मिस शुमा बनिक, आप लोग बने रहिए, फिर हम आएंगे आपके पास। मिस शुमा बनिक, एडोलेसेंट में खासकर लड़कियों में एक बड़ी समस्या है जो पीरियड से संबंधित है, क्योंकि पहली बार वो इसका अनुभव करती हैं। तो क्या कॉमन प्रॉब्लम्स है पीरियड से जुड़े इस एज ग्रुप में?
प्रॉब्लम्स सबसे पहले जो सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम मुझे लगता है वो है नॉट बीइंग अवेयर ऑफ मेंस्ट्रुएशन, कि प्रोसेस क्या होता है वही हमें पता नहीं होता है, वही बच्चों को पता नहीं होता है। तो इसमें इसके बाद ये होता है कि जब पहली बार पीरियड्स आता है तो उनको समझ में नहीं आता है कि ये प्रोसेस क्या है, क्यों हो रहा है। नेक्स्ट स्टेप होता है कि कैसे हम जो मेंस्ट्रुअल प्रोडक्ट्स है उसको हम कैसे यूज करें, वो उनके पास नॉलेज नहीं होता है। तो इन सब चीजों के कारण बहुत सारा शेम एंड मिसकंसेप्शंस है वो डेवलप करता है इंसान में, जो नॉट ओनली जस्ट सोशली उनको इम्पैक्ट करता है बट ऑल्सो इट इम्पैक्ट्स देयर हेल्थ। जैसे कि अगर वो लोग क्लीन कपड़े नहीं, अगर कोई कपड़ा यूज कर रहा है वो क्लीन नहीं यूज कर रहे क्योंकि उनके पास अवेयरनेस नहीं है कि कैसे यूज करना है, तो इसके कारण इन्फेक्शंस हो रहे हैं, इसके कारण बाकी बीमारियां हो रही है, तो वो इनफैक्ट उनको ऐसे तरीके से उनको इम्पैक्ट कर रहा है। तो आई फील दैट मतलब मेंस्ट्रुएशन एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है लाइफ का, जो एडोलेसेंट लड़कियों को नहीं पता होता है, एंड इनफैक्ट एडोलेसेंट लड़कों को भी मतलब लड़कों को तो पता ही नहीं होता है, बहुत कम लड़कों को पता होता है। तो दिस ऑल्सो इनफैक्ट इम्पैक्ट्स जो क्लासरूम का डायनामिक्स होता है, कि कभी किसी के स्कर्ट में स्टेन दिख गया तो उस पर कैसे रिएक्ट करना है वो हमें पता नहीं है, वो लड़कों को पता नहीं है। तो इसी के थ्रू एक कल्चर ऑफ शेम डेवलप होता है क्लासरूम में या फिर क्लासरूम के बाहर। तो आई थिंक प्रॉब्लम ऑफ मेंस्ट्रुएशन इज मतलब should start with the solution should start with awareness and then creating accessibility, and उसको हम कैसे लेके जाएंगे।
थैंक यू सो मच जी, आप बने रहिए, फिर हम लौटेंगे आपके पास। मिस नियामत बाबा, आमतौर पे देखा जाता है कि अगर एडोलेसेंट एज ग्रुप में कोई हादसा होता है, कोई ट्रॉमा होता है उसके साथ, तो ये जीवन भर उसका पीछा करता है। क्या ये सच है कि जीवन भर ये ट्रॉमा पीछा करता है, और करता है तो किस हद तक उसके मेंटल हेल्थ को प्रभावित करता है, और इससे बचाव के क्या उपाय हैं?
आई थिंक सबसे पहली चीज है कि ट्रॉमास के सेटबैक्स या ट्रॉमा सभी को आते हैं लाइफ में एट सम पॉइंट और द अदर, और उन एक्सपीरियंसेस को कैसे हैंडल किया गया है और उन एक्सपीरियंसेस के थ्रू वो एडोलेसेंट या बच्चा या अडल्ट कैसे उन्होंने उस चीज को मैनेज किया है उस टाइम पे, बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, क्योंकि उसको वो उस टाइम पे कैसे मैनेज हुआ है उसी से आगे वो कितना इम्पैक्ट करेगा लाइफ में, काफी उसके बेसिस पे काफी निर्भर है। पर जैसे बहुत सारे लोग सेक्सुअल रिलेशनशिप्स और पीरियड्स एंड ये सब के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, और ये क्वेश्चन भी से भी जुड़ा है कि हेल्दी ओपन स्पेसेस बनाना एडोलेसेंट्स के लिए बहुत जरूरी है, जहां पे वो जाके ये सब बातें कर सकते हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर आप आज भी एक गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट के पास जाते हैं तो पहला क्वेश्चन उनका ये होता है, आर यू मैरिड? एंड अगर मैं एक 18 या 19 या 17 ईयर ओल्ड की लड़की हूं और आई कैन बी गोइंग फॉर एनी प्रॉब्लम, but the first question is, are you married? If that is the question, I will not go again. So ye questions are very unsafe questions. The question, you're married, not married, उससे आपके सेक्सुअल रिलेशनशिप्स अब बिल्कुल भी उन पे निर्भर नहीं है, प्रेगनेंसी उन पे निर्भर नहीं है, आपके पीरियड्स उन पे निर्भर नहीं है। तो ये क्वेश्चन can be मतलब थोड़ा parked on the side, and what the person is feeling, making them comfortable, talking about reproduction, talking about sexual relationships, if we want them to जैसे किसी ने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले बोला था कि you can have sex but you should have safe sex, है ना? तो अगर हम चाहते हैं कि वो आके बात करें इस बारे में या किसी भी चीज के बारे में, ट्रॉमास के बारे में, जो चीजें उनकी कोई नेगेटिव एक्सपीरियंसेस हुए हैं, अगर हम चाहते हैं कि वो उन चीजों को अच्छे से डील कर पाए, हमें उनको सेफ स्पेसेस देना बहुत जरूरी है, नॉन जजमेंटल स्पेसेस, जहाँ पे अगर कोई बच्चा आके ये बोले कि मेरे को एक ट्रॉमा है, आई हैड अ सेक्सुअल रिलेशनशिप विद समवन एंड दैट इज माय ट्रॉमा, देन वी आर नॉट जजिंग दैट girl or a boy that who asked you to go have sex at this age? So, we have to change the narrative. We have to change how we are talking to the adolescents, and we have to create spaces which are safe. Also, peer pressure, like Nilima was also talking about, कि peer pressure है. ये peer pressure की वजह से भी friendships भी unsafe spaces बन गई हैं. तो एक adolescent के पास कोई जगह ही नहीं बचती है. Parents are still transitioning from their own mindsets to the adolescents mindset. Schools तो बहुत टाइम से, अभी 2 साल से बंद ही थे. adolescents अगर अपने फ्रेंड पीयर सर्कल जजमेंट होती है, बुलिंग होती है, मजाक उड़ जाता है, कभी कोई कुछ नेगेटिव बोल देता है, तो सेफ स्पेसेस क्रिएट करना बहुत जरूरी है, जहां पे दे शुड नो कि इफ आई हैव अ प्रॉब्लम, आई हैव अ ट्रॉमा, नेगेटिव एक्सपीरियंस, देन आई गो देयर, talk to that person, and I feel safe talking about my emotions, my experiences here.
नियामत, आपने बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट उठाया. बीइंग नॉन जजमेंटल इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एज यू मेंशन, बिकॉज स्पेशली जो अभी के जो डॉक्टर्स है ना, दे आर इनटू आवर एज ग्रुप. जो अभी डॉक्टर्स आ रहे हैं, ऑब्वियसली दे आर द यंगर वंस. सो हमारे एज ग्रुप को वो नॉन जजमेंटल बनना, एज यू सेड, वी हैव to change ourselves in the perspective of the adolescent. As you said about the traumatic disorder, just to add, we have a post-traumatic disorder, PTSD होता है, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is actually between 2 to 4 weeks तक problem आपका जो होता है ना, जिसमें आप self कर रहे हो, आप depress हो रहे हो, आप anxious हो रहे हो, whatever it is. लेकिन 4 weeks से अगर ज़्यादा होता है, then obviously the parent should actually identify it, the school teacher should identify it, the school nurses should identify it, and that child should be spoken to. That child the parent should be called, and then help from specialists, either a psychologist or a psychiatrist should be sought. Counseling is very important in this case.
एक बात नियामत जी ने और अच्छी कही कि मोरल पुलिसिंग नहीं करनी चाहिए, खास करके इस एज ग्रुप के लिए. ओवर टू यू मिस्टर शंकर.
Thank you, Kishore. I would like to have, I'll throw a question across to all the panelists, starting with Dr. Neelam. Now, we have pediatricians who take care of kids. We have the other specialists who take care of adults. But where does all this adolescent group form? Are they into the pediatric section, or they go to GPs, or do they have specific speciality taking care of adolescent health, and what is the experience in the West, Dr. Neelam?
So now these days, since adolescent doesn't earn, there is a lot of a new wave I'm seeing. I'm sitting in an area where I see mostly open-minded parents here. So at Gangaram, I receive a lot of patients coming with their kids and say the kids was asking for a session from a long time. They demanded, I don't know what is the issue. Do you think there is an issue? Because it's difficult for a parent who has a gap in the children and the adulthood. बहुत गैप है उनके बीच में, समझने में उन्हें बहुत समय लगता है कि अच्छा बच्चे को कोई परेशानी भी हो सकती है जिसके लिए उसको मदद चाहिए. अच्छा, मदद क्यों चाहिए? ऐसी क्या बात है जो हमसे नहीं कर सकता है, जिसके लिए उसको किसी और से बात करनी है? मुझे आज भी एक केस याद है. एक बच्चा मेरे पास सिवियर डिप्रेशन के साथ 3 सेशंस के लिए आया. 3rd सेशन में जब उसका असेसमेंट हमने किया तो उसको सीवियर डिप्रेशन विद सुसाइडल आइडिएशन डिटेक्ट हुआ. द गर्ल वाज 17 इयर्स ओल्ड. मैंने उसके पेरेंट्स को तब बुलाया उसके बाद कि अब ये मैं तुम्हें डिस्क्लोज नहीं कर सकती, आई हैव टू सी योर पेरेंट्स नाउ. मदर आई, इंस्टेड शी शुड बी इन अ सपोर्ट कि चलो ठीक है कुछ डायग्नोसिस हुआ है. शी गॉट ऑफेंडेड कि मेरा बच्चा मेरे से पहले आपके पास कैसे आ गया. So parents are not ready to give that space also to the kids. Now, अगर आप घर में ही एक common space उन्हें दे देंगे जहाँ वो अपने मन की बात कर सकें, and as Dr. Sonia said, don't judge and understand their perspective that they are undergoing this, probably will help them out. So for the adolescents, help starts from the home with the parents. Rather they visit their friends, their other peers, and take a wrong advice. Rather they should visit the parents. So parents has to give us common space to the kids where they actually come up, speak to them what issues they have, and get right help instead of getting wrong help from the POs.
Dr. Sonia?
Yes.
Yeah, this question is also to you, whether you have a specialty taking care of adolescents.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
No, my common question was, we have pediatricians taking care of kids, we have the others taking care of the adult population. So who and you quoted the UK experience also, who actually looks after the problems of adolescents, because they are a very, very strange, confused group and they have major issues mentally.
See, it is very sad. आप हमारे पुरानी पिक्चर्स में जैसे देखते होंगे ना कि वो फैमिली फिजिशियन का जो कॉन्सेप्ट था कि एक बुड्ढे से डॉक्टर आते थे अपना स्टेथोस्कोप लेके, वो एल्डरली से लेके और बच्चों तक सबको मैनेज करते थे, वो एक्चुअली कॉन्सेप्ट हमारा ना चला गया है. और अभी अनफॉर्चुनेटली ऑल द डॉक्टर्स जो है ना, जैसे दे हैव बिकम वेरी प्रोफेशनल, वो टच जो है ना, दैट इज एक्चुअली गॉन. मेरे केस में क्या है, एज यू नो, आई एम इन गंगाराम, आई एम हेडिंग वन ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट्स. हमारे केस में ये होता है कि सब तरह के लोग आते हैं, बुड्ढों से लेके बच्चों तक. एंड इनफैक्ट वी आर वेरी लकी कि वो हम लोगों के व्यवहार से क्या होता है कि एक ओल्ड सीनियर सिटीजन आएंगे, वो अपने बच्चों को भी ले आएंगे, फिर वो अपने बच्चों को ले आएंगे कि मैडम आप हमें सलाह दीजिए कि क्या करना चाहिए. देन भी एज यू राइटली सेड कि वो बच्चे कहाँ जाएं, you know, they are confused, क्योंकि हमें भी समझ में नहीं आता कई बारी. we have people who are actually looking after adolescent health, who are actually pediatricians by profession, but they have actually super specialized into only adolescents. We have certain people in Gangaram Hospital who are actually going to these schools and talking only to the 9 to 11th year students, you know. So they are only dealing with the adolescent health.
But we have to understand one thing here, that there is no actually such branch who is specializing in adolescent, like psychologists.
I know, but we have in Gangaram also, we have Dr. Latika Bhalla is there, who is actually a pediatrician by profession, but she's actually gone into adolescence. So she actually visits certain schools and talks to them about these sort of problems only, adolescent health issues only. So
yeah,
I understand there's no such branch as such, but they still, up to 18 years of age, they're still coming under pediatricians.
Yeah, because see, once you go to a hospital and you have some problem, you say you have kidney problem, your nephrologist come in, heart, the cardiologist will come in. So suppose you have youngsters who have some problem, where do you refer them to? That's an issue that you
We usually refer them towards
recently I spoke in a school. I spoke in Springdale School about this adolescent health only, and you won't believe how many queries were shot at me only on menstrual health. कि भाई मेरे बच्चे को अभी पीरियड शुरू हुआ, फिर 3 महीने बाद शुरू हुआ, फिर 3 महीने तक गायब हो गया, you know, like that. So they had so many issues that I had to answer. सबका क्रक्स एक ही है कि जब बच्चा बड़ा हो रहा होता है तो हमारी बॉडी भी यूज्ड टू, जैसे हम लोग यूज्ड टू होते हैं हमारे बच्चे के, वैसे ही उन बच्चों की बॉडी भी यूज्ड टू हो रही होती है, केमिकल चेंजेस भी एडजस्ट हो रहे होते हैं. तो कोई डरने की बात नहीं. अगर एक बच्चे को अभी पीरियड हुए और फिर 3 महीने बाद पीरियड हुए, मतलब उसका हार्मोन जो है ना, उसकी बॉडी कंफ्यूज्ड है, उसकी बॉडी भी कंफ्यूज्ड है धीरे धीरे, और हार्मोन्स धीरे धीरे लाइन ट्रैक हो जाएंगे. एंड बाय द टाइम दे आर 16-17 इयर्स ऑफ एज, उनका जो हार्मोन लेवल्स है वो स्टेबलाइज हो गए, उनके मूड स्विंग स्टेबलाइज हो गए, उनके हार्मोन स्टेबलाइज हो गए, लड़के भी थोड़े स्टेबलाइज हो गए. एज यू नो, लड़कियां थोड़ा जल्दी बड़ी होती हैं लड़कों से, लड़कियों की मेंस्ट्रुअल साइकिल स्टेबलाइज हो जाएगी. सो यू नो, there were questions only on this topic which was shot at me when I gave this lecture on adolescent health in a couple of schools, you know.
Yes, you have a lot of questions that arise, and now slowly youngsters are opening, and not slowly, but because you have Google and other things for them, they gain knowledge there. Now I come to Ms. Niyamat Bhava. Now, during the COVID period, we are dealing with adolescents and also COVID period, witnessed an increase in substance abuse, drugs, alcohol consumption, and violence. Are there any specific reasons for this?
Yes. one that with the schools not opening, but yet if you look at it after the second wave, शायद schools नहीं खुले थे, but बच्चे तो they were going wherever they had to. The parties were still on, the socializing was also going on, and a lot of kids, what they were doing was just switching on the laptop and not really attending classes. So those spaces are filled in by other activities. The more space there is in the mind, the more it wants to experiment. The mind is curious. What is a drug like? How does it feel? Where do you get it from? It's such an exciting process for adolescents to get drugs, get together, then कहीं छुप के ये सब करना. तो ये पूरा ही जो पूरा आइडिया है बहुत ही एक्साइटिंग भी है. So, so much time and so little to do has actually led to a lot of curiosity and, experimentation, and also a lot of aggression has also increased, anger issues, aggression, emotional outbursts, because the mind has not been, used in the best or in a constructive manner. And when you are not using your mind in a constructive manner, if you look at it, 13 years to 9, you can say 13 to 19 is an age when you're learning the most when it comes to your social behavior, your, even academically. These are some very, very important and stimulating years for academic achievements as well. And अगर उस time पे the mind is empty and there is it is not being challenged or channelized, it will get into things that are detrimental for that mind. A lot of children and young adults, adolescents, children have had a lot of anger issues because of being home and not having an outlet for their energies, so for the level of energy is so much, they need to be out, they need to play, they cannot be in front of the screens all the time. So much of Netflix content consumption without being monitored of what is the content they are consuming, so much of violent and so much of emotionally distressing content on OTT platforms, where which does impact your emotions. It does impact your how aggressive you are, how you are thinking, what are the ideas your mind is coming up with. Very simple example, if you're watching, for example, a very a series or a show which has a lot of sadness, you go back with a sad feeling. Exactly. And so kids don't know what is happening, so much aggression, where is it coming from? So I think these are things that are leading to this aggression, abuse, drug abuse, drug addiction. And again, I'll come back to that same point that I was making, that these adolescents don't have a space, a reliable source that can tell them, what to do, how to do it, and how much is okay.
Yeah, they're just like a volcano. You have a lot of built-up energy within you, but how it spews out and where it spews out and how large is the explosion is what is to be taken care of. So rightly put, a lot of pent-up emotions which got locked down during the COVID and then not knowing what to do. I'll come to Dr.
Just to add to what Niyamat has just said, she mentioned about the space. आजकल क्या हो रहा है कि दोनों हस्बैंड वाइफ कमाने की होड़ में लगे हुए हैं, और पहले ये होता था कि मदर्स जो रहती थी वो they were always available at home. तो बच्चा आके अपनी माँ से अपनी दुखड़े रो लेता था. अभी क्या है, मदर थकी थकाई आती हैं, बच्चे आते हैं, मम्मी मेरी बात सुन लो, ऐसा हुआ वैसा हुआ, अरे बच्चा मुझे खाना बनाने दो, मैं लेट हो रही हूँ, मैं थक गई, मुझे सोना है, मेरा सिर दुख रहा है, these sort of things. नियामत is put the right point कि बच्चे के पास स्पेस नहीं है, किससे बात करे बच्चा. सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट उसके सोर्सेज होते हैं उसके पेरेंट्स के ऊपर, जिनके ऊपर उसको कॉन्फिडेंस है, पूरा भरोसा है, वही अवेलेबल नहीं है. दूसरी चीज, नियामत सेट की there's a quote, whatever you eat you are. So she says whatever they are watching, उनके दिमाग में पबजी चल रहा है, वो मार रहे एक दूसरे को, तो एग्रेशन आ रहा है. If they watch something of meditation, calmness, Buddha, they will become like that. So that is a very good point that she put up.
Yeah, I'll come to Ms. Niyamat Bawa. Glad to have you. Sorry, I'm coming to Shuma Banik. Ms. Shuma, often you deal with periods and painful periods and other things. So often patients suffer from painful periods, heavy bleeding, pain during sex, painful urination and defecation and nausea. Women often tolerate such excruciatingly painful period cramps because they are told that pain is normal. However, the period pain might indicate a more severe condition if it interferes with one's daily routine. A common cause of such very painful period cramps could be endometriosis. So what is your experience when you worked among the communities?
So when I worked among the communities, I would want to talk about one of the government's flagship program, which kind of tackles these problems, adolescent problem, is RKSK program, right? Rashtriya Kishore Swasth Karyakram program. So I think this program has been, it hasn't flown to the level that it should have, but it has been instrumental in some aspects of changing the dynamics of adolescent health. Coming to your point, like how has been my experience of working in rural communities. So I think when we talk about menstrual cramps, it comes after we are aware that we can talk about menstruation, right? So it's a next step. It's a next step forward. But when we go to rural spaces, rural India, women are not even talking about their menstruation. They are making it so what they would do is, even they would burn the sanitary napkin. They would clean the sanitary napkin and burn it so that the other members of the community do not get to know that they are on their periods. So the first step of talking about menstruation is also not happening. So this comes way after that. So also when I used to go to schools and talk to adolescents, one major problem that they had with their periods is, as I think Sonia ma'am already spoke about it, that how there is heavy flow happening, or someone is getting their periods in 6th standard, someone is getting their periods in 9th standard, and there is a lot of pressure that builds up also in school, that and not only pressure of getting periods in the right time, but also what products that they are using. So I think all of those things play a very significant role. And when you talk about endometriosis, these are things they don't talk about, all of like these problems. I know these are very significant problems. I'm sure it's a significant problem in rural India as well. But when you talk about endometriosis, the first thing that comes to my mind is all my interaction with my urban, maybe upper middle class, my fellow colleagues or my friends who are in the upper middle class strata, because they are the only ones who are talking about the problems that they are facing in their menstrual health or reproductive health, right? So I don't think enough data about what women in right now.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's some slight problem in your connection also, but point well taken. Over to you, Kishore.
Thank you, sir. Miss Neelam Mishra, हैं आप?
जो अभी मैडम ने बताया, the rural India का, हमारी actually taboo आप देखें, जब भी औरत को मेंस्ट्रुएशन होते हैं, घर में कई घरों में उसको खाना बनाने नहीं दिया जाता. इट इज जस्ट अ नॉर्मल प्रोसेस. मतलब औरत गंदी नहीं है, वो शी इज एक्चुअली मेंस्ट्रुएटिंग, उसके हाथ तो साफ है, शी कैन वॉश हर हैंड्स, शी कैन मेक फूड. आप देखिए कई घरों में ऐसा है, स्पेशली द फैमिलीज ऑफ द प्रीस्ट, वो किचन में एंटर नहीं कर सकती, उसको टैबू बना दिया जाता है. एंडोमेट्रियोसिस की बात आपने करी. Just for the common people, I know we are all doctors sitting here. For the common people, what is endometriosis? Endometriosis ये होता है कि जो हमारी यूट्राइन लाइनिंग होती है वो यूट्रस के अलावा, जो बच्चेदानी के अलावा दूसरी जगह पे भी चली जाती है, जैसे ओवरीज में चली गई, अंडेदानी में चली गई, हमारे पेट के ऊपर चली गई, हमारे इंटेस्टाइन्स के ऊपर चली गई. तो जब वो ब्लीडिंग होता है, जब मंथली ब्लीडिंग होता है, तो ये लाइनिंग्स भी ब्लीड करती हैं, इसीलिए पेन होता है. सो आपने जो क्वेश्चन पूछा था सर, दूसरे वाले सर ने, एंडोमेट्रियोसिस में यू आर राइट कि अगर डिस्मेनोरिया का मतलब है पेन ड्यूरिंग मेंस्ट्रुएशन. इनिशियली पेन जो होता है वो कॉमन है, लेकिन अगर वो लॉन्ग लास्टिंग करता है तब डेफिनेटली उसको इन्वेस्टिगेट करना जरूरी है, क्योंकि नॉर्मली पेन होना ओवुलेशन की निशानी है कि अगर आपको मेंस्ट्रुएशन में पेन हो रहा है, दैट मीन्स एवरीथिंग इज गोइंग ऑन ओके. 14 डेज पहले या 12 दिन पहले आपका ओवुलेट हुआ है, ओवुलेशन हुआ है, मतलब अंडेदानी में से अंडा निकला है, जो ऑब्वियसली अगर राइट वे में यूज हो जाए, राइट एज में यूज हो जाए, तो वो बच्चा प्रोड्यूस कर सकता है, उसको ये बोलते हैं. लेकिन एंडोमेट्रियोसिस अगर डिस्मेनोरिया, स्पेशली प्राइमरी डिस्मेनोरिया, मतलब शुरू से ही डिस्मेनोरिया हो रहा है, सेकेंडरी डिस्मेनोरिया मतलब बाद से शुरू हुआ, डिस्मेनोरिया मतलब पेन ड्यूरिंग पीरियड्स, तो उसको इन्वेस्टिगेट करना जरूरी है, स्पेशली सेकेंडरी डिस्मेनोरिया को. सेकेंडरी डिस्मेनोरिया मतलब पहले सब कुछ ठीक था, लेकिन थोड़े दिनों के बाद बच्चा पैदा हो गया या कुछ प्रॉब्लम हुई और उसके बाद आपको पेट में बहुत ज्यादा दर्द होने लगा ड्यूरिंग मेंस्ट्रुएशन, उसको इन्वेस्टिगेशन करना बहुत जरूरी, स्पेशली फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ एंडोमेट्रियोसिस.
एक बार हम फिर आपको याद दिला दें कि हमारा ये शो दुनिया भर में यूट्यूब और फेसबुक पर लाइव देखा जा रहा है और काफी रिस्पांस आ रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छे रिस्पांस आ रहे हैं, कुछ सवाल भी आ रहे हैं. एक सवाल आया है नियामत बाबा जी के लिए, उन्होंने नाम नहीं लिखा है, और उनका पूछना है कि ये जो मूड स्विंग होता है खास करके लड़कियों में पीरियड के दौरान, ये बहुत कॉमन है या ये किसी बीमारी का लक्षण भी हो सकता है, सिम्टम हो सकता है?
बहुत सारे लोगों को ये मूड स्विंग्स होते हैं. ये सबसे ज्यादा हार्मोनल चेंजेस के टाइम की वजह से होते हैं. उस स्पेशली बहुत सारी लड़कियां बोलती हैं कि पीरियड से पहले इमोशनल आउटबर्स्ट होते हैं, रोना आता है या गुस्सा आता है. सो इट्स वेरी वेरी कॉमन. देयर इज नथिंग दैट इज there is nothing that one has to really worry about until one feels कि it is unmanageable और बिल्कुल भी इमोशंस को होल्ड करने की क्षमता नहीं रहती है. और अगर ऐसा है तो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू बी वेरी माइंडफुल ऑफ कि आपको ये जो इमोशनल आउटबर्स्ट है या जो इमोशनल डिस्ट्रेस है, ये आपके पीरियड से कितने दिन पहले आता है, और इसको मैनेज करना विद अ साइकोलॉजिस्ट या काउंसलिंग के माध्यम से बहुत जरूरी है.
सोनिया जी, आपसे एक सवाल है कि कोविड के दौरान और कोविड के बाद, हालांकि इस एज ग्रुप में ज्यादा इन्फेक्शन नहीं हुआ लोगों को, लेकिन आपके पास किस तरह के ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स आए हैं कोविड के बाद और कोविड के दौरान, जो शिकार हुए हैं, जो इन्फेक्शन के शिकार हुए हैं?
देखिए, जो नॉर्मली जो बच्चे होते हैं ना, उनमें इम्यून क्षमता काफी होती है. तो बच्चों में ऐसा देखा गया है कि अगर उनको कोविड इन्फेक्शन भी हुआ है तो इट इज ऐसे फ्लू, नॉर्मल फ्लू, कोल्ड कॉफ, खांसी, बुखार, इस तरह वो पास आउट हो गया है. बहुत ही कम बच्चे ऐसे हुए हैं जिनको आगे जाके लंग्स की प्रॉब्लम हुई है, बहुत ही कम मात्रा में. आई वुड से ओनली 2 to 3% इस एज ग्रुप में. क्योंकि बच्चे, क्या होता है कि बच्चे जो हैं वो एक तो खेलते हैं, उनकी सारी एनर्जी, बिकॉज आपको पता ही है कि हार्मोन्स हमारी बॉडी में, हैप्पी हार्मोन्स सब जनरेट होते हैं जब हम घूमने जाते हैं या हम खेलते हैं. आपने देखा होगा सारे बच्चे ग्राउंड्स में रहते हैं, स्पेशली बॉयज. तो इस एज ग्रुप में ये बहुत अच्छी चीज है कि इनकी इम्यूनिटी जो है रोग प्रतिरोधक क्षमता बहुत अच्छी है। तो रोग प्रतिरोधक क्षमता अच्छी होने के कारण ये बच्चे कम मात्रा में पीड़ित देखे गए हैं। उसके ऊपर मेरा आप सभी पालकों से निवेदन है कि बच्चों को इम्यून मतलब रोग प्रतिरोधक क्षमता को बढ़ाने वाले फूड्स खिलाएं इस एज ग्रुप में, क्योंकि आपने देखा होगा हमारी दादी नानी अभी 80-80 साल की हैं। बच्चों, हमारी दादी नानी 80-80 साल की फिर भी चल लेती हैं। क्यों? क्योंकि उन्होंने आपकी एज ग्रुप में अच्छा घी खाया है, अच्छा दूध पिया है, अच्छे फल फ्रूट खाए हैं। आपके जो आजकल येलो कलर के, रेड कलर के, ग्रीन कलर के ये सब खाए हैं। पिज्जा, फास्ट फूड्स नहीं खाए हैं, बिकॉज उस टाइम फास्ट फूड्स नहीं होते थे, यू नो। So this is very important for the kids to reiterate, even for mental health disorders, even for physical disorders, even for emotional disorders, it is very important to eat right.
आपने सही कहा। मैं छोटा था, अपने ननिहाल जाता था तो अपनी माँ को देखता था कि वो तैर कर गंगा के बीच पे पहुंच जाती थी
जी
तैरते हुए।
जी
और
हमारी
और शादी के बाद भी वो आम के पेड़ पे चढ़कर आम तोड़ती थी।
एग्जैक्टली।
शुमा बनिक जी,
वो चीजें अभी अवेलेबल नहीं है। शुद्ध घी अवेलेबल नहीं है, शुद्ध खाना अवेलेबल नहीं है, पर फिर भी हम अपने डे टू डे रूटीन में फ्रूट एंड वेजिटेबल्स इसको रिटरेट कर सकते हैं। प्रॉपर डेली मात्रा में जो हमारी वेल बैलेंस डाइट होती है, जिसमें कार्बोहाइड्रेट भी है, प्रोटीन भी है, डेयरी भी है, फ्रूट एंड वेजिटेबल्स भी हैं, फैट्स भी हैं, वो इनकॉर्पोरेट करें। कम से कम हफ्ते में 1 दिन सिर्फ फास्ट फूड खाएं, हफ्ते में 1 दिन, और बाकी दिनों बच्चों बहुत अच्छा खाएं। इससे आपकी सारी प्रॉब्लम्स दूर हो जाएंगी, बिलीव मी।
शुमा बनिक जी, अभी डॉक्टर रावत ने थोड़ी देर पहले बताया कि कैसे पीरियड जो है सोशल स्टिग्मा बना हुआ है, उससे जुड़ा हुआ है। मेरा एक सवाल ये है कि आपका जो संगठन है, जब आप महिलाओं के बीच जाती हैं, हमने देखा है कि पुरुषों में और घर के गार्जियन के अलावा जो खुद जिनको पीरियड हुआ है वो भी खुद ही परहेज करती हैं, वो खुद ही इसको गलत मानती है, किचन में नहीं जाना। आप क्या चैलेंजेस फेस करती हैं?
चैलेंजेस मतलब सबसे पहले जैसे आपने ही आई थिंक आंसर दे दिया कि खुद से ही सबसे पहले फील करना कि हम खुद ही इम्प्योर है, राइट। ये जो प्योरिटी वाला कंसेप्ट है ना कि मासिक धर्म के दौरान हम कुछ चीजों को छू नहीं सकते। हम बहुत सारे कल्चर्स में, मैं असम से आती हूँ तो असम में कल्चर डिफरेंट है कि जैसे अचार नहीं छूना है। अचार का आई थिंक ऑल ओवर इंडिया एक कंसेप्ट है कि अचार नहीं छूना है। कोई बोलते हैं कि बच्चों को नहीं छूना है। फिर घर में जैसे अलग घर में रहने के लिए डाल देते हैं, जैसे छोटा सा घर नेपाल वगैरह में छोटा सा घर बना के वहां पे रख देते हैं, और वो बहुत अनहाइजीनिक होता है कंडीशंस, राइट। और उस टाइम पे एक ही चीज चाहिए होता है, वो है हाइजीनिक वॉशरूम चाहिए, हाइजीनिक टॉयलेट्स चाहिए, राइट। तो वही नहीं मिल पाता है जो बेसिक होता है, और बाकी सब कुछ से तुम उसको अलग करके रखो। एक रूम में रहना है। बहुत लोग बोलते हैं कि किताब नहीं पढ़ना है उस टाइम पे, मतलब ऐसे पता नहीं कौन सी मेडिटेटिव स्टेट में रहना है ताकि पीरियड्स के दौरान, बिकॉज वो इम्प्योरिटी का कंसेप्ट। तो ये जनरेशंस चलता आ रहा है। तो अगर मैं एक औरत हूँ और मुझे पीरियड्स हो रहा है और मेरी मम्मी ने भी वही प्रैक्टिस किया है, तो वो तो मेरे अंदर भी आएगा ना। तो जब तक आके कोई मेरा काउंसलिंग नहीं करेगा, अगर कोई जब तक आके मुझे नहीं बोलेगा कि आप इम्प्योर नहीं हो, तुम इम्प्योर नहीं हो, तुम ये काम कर सकते हो, तो और हमेशा ये देखना कि किसी फैमिली में मैक्सिमम टाइम्स हम लोग क्योंकि अपने पापा से बात नहीं करते, भाई से बात नहीं करते पीरियड्स के बारे में, जो ये बाउंड्रीज है कि तुम्हें पीरियड्स में यहीं पे रहना है, लड़कों से बात नहीं करना है, खेलना नहीं है, ये सब चीजें हमेशा घर की औरतों से ही आती है, राइट। हमारी मम्मी से आ गई, हमारी दादी से आ गई, हमारी चाची से आ गई है। तो ये सब चीजें यहीं से आती है सबसे पहले। तो ऑब्वियसली हम भी उस सिस्टम का ही पार्ट है ना, हम उस कम्युनिटी का पार्ट है, तो हमारे अंदर भी वही वैल्यूज है जो हमें दिया जाता है बचपन में। तो उसको अनलर्न करने का जो प्रोसेस है वही चैलेंजिंग है। तो क्योंकि मैं जब जाती थी कम्युनिटीज में बात करने के लिए, सबसे पहले हम लोग बात करते थे मम्मियों से, क्योंकि मम्मियां सबसे पहले गेट कीपर्स होते हैं, जो कि मेंस्ट्रुअल हेल्थ का गेट कीपर सबसे पहले मम्मी है। कम्युनिटी हेल्थ वर्कर्स, आशा वर्कर्स भी उसके नेक्स्ट स्टेप में है, राइट। तो हम जब मम्मियों से बात करते थे, तब मम्मियां जब अपने बच्चों से बात करती है, उसका इम्पैक्ट कई गुना ज्यादा था जब हम डायरेक्ट बच्चों से बात करते हैं। कोई बच्चा मेरी बात क्यों सुनेगा, अपनी मम्मी की बात ही सुनेंगे ना। तो आई थिंक दोज आर द मैकेनिज्म्स जो हम यूज कर सकते हैं वो स्टिग्मा को दूर करने के लिए। सेकेंड स्टेज में वो किसको देखते हैं, जैसे आशा वर्कर्स आते हैं, हेल्थ वर्कर्स, उनका एक स्पेशलाइजेशन है, राइट। जब हम आशा वर्कर्स के साथ बात करते हैं, वो लोग भी, क्योंकि वो लोग भी सेम सिस्टम का पार्ट है, वो लोग भी बिलीव करते हैं कि अरे हम तो इम्प्योर है इस प्रोसेस के दौरान, हम बात नहीं कर सकते, हम बच्चों को कैसे बात करें। बट जब हम आशा वर्कर्स से बात करना शुरू किए तो उन्होंने बोला अरे ये तो हमें पता ही नहीं था। बट जब वो अपने कम्युनिटी हेल्थ सेंटर्स में इसके बारे में बात कर रहे थे, तब उनका इम्पैक्ट जो था वो बहुत ऊपर था। तो पहले आई थिंक मम्मियां एंड देन आशा वर्कर्स। तो ऐसे ही हमें ये आइडेंटिफाई करना होगा कि कौन से लेवल पे जाके हम बात करें, एंड और उस हिसाब से कैसे जल्दी रीच कर पाए हम एडोलेसेंस से। तो आई थिंक गेट कीपर्स को पहले टारगेट करना है।
आपने सही कहा। मैं तो ऐसे लोगों को भी जानता हूं जो दिल्ली में रहते हैं और पढ़े लिखे हैं, सो कॉल्ड एजुकेटेड लोग हैं, उनको टेलीविजन पर सैनिटरी पैड्स के एड दिखाए जाने का पर भी एतराज है। मैं ऐसे लोगों को भी जानता हूं कि क्यों दिखाते हैं, ये ठीक नहीं है। तो ऐसे लोग भी हैं। एक बात और बता दूं कि आप लोगों से जो बात होती है हेल्थ फॉर ऑल के इस ऑनलाइन शो में, उसके बाइट्स निकाल के हम एक प्रोग्राम बनाते हैं यूट्यूब पे जो काफी पॉपुलर है। उसका नाम है, आप हील टीवी पर जाके देख सकती हैं, हेल्थ नामा। उसको मैं करता हूं और एक एक बाइट लेके सारे एक्सपर्ट के हम उसमें डाल के एक प्रोग्राम बनाते हैं जो बहुत छोटा होता है, 10 मिनट से कम का भी होता है। तो पिछले आप लोगों से बात के आधार पे हम नेक्स्ट एपिसोड में हम दिखाएंगे। और आज हम दिखाने जा रहे हैं अभी अपना हेल्थ नामा, जो पिछले एपिसोड की बातचीत के आधार पे हमने तैयार किया है। तो पेश है हेल्थ नामा, जो री इमर्जेंस ऑफ कोविड पर है।
नमस्कार। कोरोना वायरस ने फिर से सिर उठाना शुरू कर दिया है, इस बार नए वेरिएंट XE के रूप में। वैसे तो इसे ज्यादा खतरनाक नहीं माना जा रहा, पर यह संक्रमण फैलता बड़ी तेजी से, इसलिए सावधान रहने की जरूरत है। उधर कोविड के अब तक के वेरिएंट की मार झेल चुके लोग भी किसी न किसी समस्या से जूझ रहे हैं। कोविड से ठीक होने के बावजूद उनके शरीर का कोई न कोई हिस्सा प्रभावित हो रहा है, जो लंबे समय तक परेशानी का सबब बना रहता है। इसे लॉन्ग कोविड कहते हैं। यह सबसे ज्यादा हार्ट और लंग्स को प्रभावित करता है, तो कोविड से ठीक हो जाने के 6 महीने बाद तक भी परेशान कर सकता है। कई बार तो इसी वजह से हार्ट अटैक भी हो सकता है। आज के हेल्थनामा में हम इन्हीं मुद्दों पर बात करेंगे और जानेंगे कि नए वेरिएंट के संदर्भ में हमें क्या करना चाहिए।
डॉक्टर साहब, नए वेरिएंट XE की बात चल रही है और इंडिया में भी गुजरात में और महाराष्ट्र में एक केस मिला है, हालांकि संपूर्ण रूप से पुष्टि नहीं हुई उसकी। तो ये माना जा रहा है कि आ गया। तो ये XE कितना खतरनाक है और भारत के संदर्भ में कितना ज्यादा फैलने की इसकी संभावना है?
जहां तक जो अभी तक एविडेंस कहीं भी आया है वो ये है कि इसकी इन्फेक्टिविटी ज्यादा है। अभी ये नहीं है कि सिवियरिटी बहुत ज्यादा है या डेथ बहुत ज्यादा हो रही है, ऐसा नहीं है। हमारी कंट्री में ऑलरेडी ओमिक्रॉन आ चुका था, वो वहाँ प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है जहाँ भी इन्फेक्शन नहीं हुआ। इट्स वेरी अनलाइकली कि हमारी कंट्री में उसका कोई बहुत बड़ा इम्पैक्ट होने वाला, मतलब हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन बढ़ जाए, डेथ होने लगे। ये दो तो डिटेक्टेड है, ठीक है। इतने पोरस बॉर्डर हैं, इतना ज्यादा ट्रेवल ये सब है, मेजॉरिटी जो है हमारे यहाँ सशेड्यूल पॉपुलेशन नहीं है, एसिम्प्टोमेटिक कैरियर हो सकते हैं, वो लेके वायरस कहीं से आ सकते हैं। इस टाइप के वायरस का पूरी दुनिया में हमें यह है कि रोका नहीं जा सकता।
एक स्टडी के अनुसार रिकवरी के बाद कोविड सर्वाइवर्स में सीरियस कार्डियोवास्कुलर इवेंट की संभावना 55% तक बढ़ जाती है। क्या वजह है?
एक दो स्टडीज आई हैं कि इवन 6 महीने तक उनको पल्मोनरी एम्बोलिज्म होना या डीप वेन थ्रोम्बोसिस होना या मोर इंसिडेंस ऑफ क्लॉटिंग इन द हार्ट स्टेंट्स। तो ये बिकॉज जो बीमारी है इट इन्वॉल्व्स द इनर लाइनिंग ऑफ ब्लड वेसल्स। तो एंड इट मे रिमेन परसिस्टेंट एंड sort of active for more than just 2 weeks. It may remain in a phase of inflammatory phase for 6 months or so. तो इसलिए we have to be careful और पहले 6 हफ्ते या 3 हफ्ते तक तो we give them definitely blood thinners.
चूंकि डायबिटीज शरीर के हर अंग को प्रभावित करता है, इसीलिए ये आपके लिए ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट हो गया है कि हम ये जानें कि अगर कोई डायबिटिक व्यक्ति कोविड से इन्फेक्टेड होता है तो आगे नेगेटिव हो जाने के बाद भी कितने दिनों तक, कितने महीनों तक उनको सावधान रहना चाहिए और किस तरह के टेस्ट वगैरह करा लेना चाहिए।
सर, हमने जैसा कि जब अपन ने बात स्टार्ट की, हमने अंडरलाइंग मैकेनिज्म देख लिया कि अंडरलाइंग मैकेनिज्म क्या है। हम एक चीज 2 साल में समझ गए हैं कि वायरस के साथ छेड़छाड़ नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। आपने जितनी भी एंटीवायरल्स निकाल ली, रेमडेसिविर निकाल ली, जो भी निकाल लिया, उसका जो बेनिफिट्स हैं, सिवियरिटी, मोर्टेलिटी बेनिफिट्स नहीं देखे गए हैं। उसका ये देखे गया है कि ड्यूरेशन ऑफ स्टे इन द हॉस्पिटल कम हो रहा है। 5 दिन जो भर्ती हो रहा था वो 2 दिन में, 3 दिन में डिस्चार्ज हो रहा है। बट जो मोर्टेलिटी एंड सिवियरिटी बेनिफिट्स देखे गए हैं वो सबसे ज्यादा स्टीरॉयड ट्रीटमेंट और उसके देखे गए। तो कुछ भी है, वी हैव टू स्टे ऑन वन थिंग कि हमें अपनी इम्यूनिटी स्ट्रॉन्ग करनी है, हमें अपना लाइफस्टाइल इंप्रूव करना है। तो क्योंकि अंडरलाइंग मैकेनिज्म सेम है। अब आप देखिए कि अगर आप गुड डाइट की बात करो, एक्सरसाइज की बात करो, तो एक्सरसाइज, गुड डाइट आपको डिप्रेशन में भी हेल्प कर रही है, आपको कोविड में भी हेल्प कर रही है, योगा आपको वहां भी हेल्प कर रहा है, डायबिटीज कंट्रोल में भी हेल्प कर रहा है, बीपी में भी हेल्प कर रहा है, डिप्रेशन में भी हेल्प कर रहा है, डिमेंशिया में भी हेल्प कर रहा है। अगर एक चीज सब में हेल्प कर रही है तो उसका ये मतलब है कि वो उस कारण पे इफेक्ट कर रही है जिस कारण से सब चीजें हो रही है।
हमारे यहाँ मास वैक्सीनेशन की जगह फोकस्ड वैक्सीनेशन होना चाहिए। तो सरकार का ये फैसला, क्या आपको लगता है कि किसी नई वेव के डर से, जो कहा जा रहा था 4th वेव, हालांकि बहुत से लोग 3rd वेव ओमिक्रॉन को नहीं मानते हैं, इसको तो 4th वेव या 3rd वेव जो भी आने वाला है, इस डर से सरकार ने ये फैसला किया?
देखिए, पहली बात तो मैं बता दूं, ये मैंने आज से 1 साल पहले भी कहा था, जब लोग कह रहे थे जल्दी जल्दी बच्चों को वैक्सीन लगा दो, सबको वैक्सीन लगा दो, कि कोई वेव नहीं रोक सकते। उस समय हमारी इन्फेक्शन रेट भी इतना नहीं था। किसी वेव को नहीं रोका जा सकता है वैक्सीनेशन से। नहीं तो कोई वेव नहीं आती साउथ कोरिया में, 3rd डोज देने के बाद भी कोई वेव नहीं आती आपके सिंगापुर में, वियतनाम में कोई वेव नहीं आती, ठीक है। जहां जहां ये, या हमारी कंट्री में सबसे ज्यादा जो है, लास्ट में अगर देखिए 3-4 महीने पहले केरला में था सबसे ज्यादा। हम पूरी कंट्री में 10% नहीं था, केरला में डबल वैक्सीनेटेड 50% लोग हो गए थे। फिर उतनी परेशानी नहीं होनी चाहिए थी। कहने का मतलब ये है कि वेव नहीं रोका जा सकता, वेव के इम्पैक्ट को रोका जा सकता है अगर पॉपुलेशन ससेप्टेबल हो।
क्या एक डायबिटिक पर्सन, अगर उनका डायबिटीज नियंत्रित नहीं है, तो क्या वो लॉन्ग कोविड के लिए ज्यादा वल्नरेबल है?
सर, हमने इसमें 2 चीजें देखी। कोविड में जो अभी तक जर्नी रही है 2 साल की, उसमें हम 2 चीजें जो इम्पोर्टेंट समझ में आई हैं वो ये है, एक तो होस्ट रिस्पॉन्स होता है और एक पैथोजन रिस्पॉन्स होता है। तो पैथोजन रिस्पॉन्स में हम लोग बहुत ज्यादा कुछ नहीं कर पाए हैं। जो भी ट्रीटमेंट्स हैं, जो भी चीजें हैं, वो सारा का सारा होस्ट रिस्पॉन्स पे टारगेट हुई है। होस्ट रिस्पॉन्स पे टारगेट हुई हैं, तो वो कैसे टारगेट हुई है, क्या कर रही है? जो भी चीजें आप दे रहे हो, सपोर्टिव दे रहे हो, विटामिन डी दे रहे हो, विटामिन सी, जिंक, क्वेरसेटिन, वो सारी चीजें इन्फ्लेमेशन कम कर रही हैं, ऑक्सीडेटिव स्ट्रेस कम कर रही हैं। एंटीऑक्सीडेंट्स दे रहे हो, स्टीरॉइड्स दे रहे हो, तो स्टीरॉइड्स का भी एंटी इन्फ्लेमेटरी रोल है। तो ये जो चीजें हैं, तो जो बेसिक अंडरलाइंग कॉज हो गया, इन्फ्लेमेशन आप कम कर रहे हो, ऑक्सीडेटिव स्ट्रेस आप कम कर रहे हो, इमोशनल स्ट्रेस आप कम कर रहे हो। जैसे कि आप ये देखो कि SSRI करके क्लास ऑफ मेडिसिन है जो कि डिप्रेशन, एंजाइटी में देते हैं, उसके बेनिफिट्स देखे गए हैं कोविड-19 के अंदर। तो ये जो चीजें बेस लाइन पे काम कर रही हैं, इन्फ्लेमेशन कम कर रहा है, ऑक्सीडेटिव स्ट्रेस कम कर रहा है, इमोशनल स्ट्रेस कम कर रहा है, सो यही अंडरलाइंग मैकेनिज्म्स हैं जो कि डायबिटीज को वर्सन करते हैं।
एक अमेरिकन स्टडी में देख रहा था, उसमें भी कहा गया है कि जो कोविड वायरस है वो ओरिजिनल पेसमेकर्स को के जो सेल्स हैं और उसके जो आसपास सेल्स हैं उसको भी संक्रमित कर देता है, जिसके कारण बिना किसी वार्निंग के, बिना किसी संकेत के कुछ ऐसे प्रॉब्लम होते हैं जो बड़ा हादसा हो जाता है, और हमने कई मामलों में देखा भी है। तो इसकी क्या वजह है डॉक्टर साहब?
जैसे मैंने बताया, आई हैव सीन माई सेल्फ, 26 साल का लड़का था जिसको कोविड हुआ और हफ्ते बाद थोड़ी गिडीनेस वगैरह के सिम्टम्स हुए, तो होल्टर जब किया गया तो उनको हाई ग्रेड एवी ब्लॉक था, मतलब कि जो कंडक्शन सिस्टम होता है, एवी नोड पहले साइनस नोड से कंडक्शन शुरू होके फिर एवी नोड में जाता है, तो उसके अराउंड इन्फ्लेमेशन थी, ताकि कंडक्शन जो है अगर साइनस 3 बीट आती थी तो नीचे 1 जाती थी, तो वो एवी नोड पे ब्लॉक हुआ था उसको, जो ग्रेजुअली इंप्रूव हो गया। तो उधर इन्फ्लेमेशन हो जाती है, उधर ब्लड सेल्स जो जा रहे हैं, ब्लड वेसल्स या वो सेल्स अराउंड दैट एरिया, दे बिकम इन्फ्लेम्ड। तो एज आई सेड, इट इज अ पैन डिजीज। अब पाया जा रहा है कि इवन पिनाइल वेसल्स में प्रॉब्लम होती है, इरेक्टाइल डिस्फंक्शन हो रहा है, स्पर्म का काउंट कम हो रहा है। सो ऑल दिस थिंग्स we will know more and more as more data comes for long COVID.
तो ये बात साफ है कि चाहे कोई भी वेरिएंट हो, हमारे पास सावधानी बरतने के अलावा कोई उपाय नहीं है। कोविड संक्रमण से बचिए, और अगर संक्रमण के शिकार हो गए हों तो अगले 6 महीने तक सावधान रहिए, खासकर हार्ट के मामले में। नमस्कार, टेक केयर।
तो आज के हेल्थ फॉर ऑल कार्यक्रम में इतना ही। हम बहुत शुक्रगुजार हैं, हील फाउंडेशन की ओर से हम शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं डॉक्टर सोनिया रावत, मिस नीलम मिश्रा, मिस शुमा बनिक और मिस कियामत बाबा का, कि उन्होंने रविवार की छुट्टी के दिन का समय निकाला हमारे लिए। और सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि उन्होंने आज अच्छी अच्छी बातों से लोगों को, खास करके एडोलसेंट ग्रुप को जो भी देख रहे हैं ऑनलाइन पे, सबसे ज्यादा वो देखते हैं या आगे भी देखेंगे यूट्यूब पर, वो उनको अपने जागरूक करने का काम किया। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अगले रविवार को सुबह 8 बजे हम फिर मिलेंगे और चर्चा करेंगे कोविड के बाद इम्यूनाइजेशन के माध्यम से बच्चों की सुरक्षा, अभी क्या हालात हैं और आगे रोड मैप क्या होगा इसका। तो इस पे हम इम्यूनाइजेशन पे पूरा हमने एपिसोड रखा है और इस पे अगले रविवार को बात करेंगे। तो अगले रविवार को मिलते हैं।